Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to be doing a little Q&A to celebrate Jupiter's upcoming Cazimi at 21 degrees of Aries next week. I'm recording this on a Thursday, Zeus's day, Jupiter's day and hour. This is April 6th, and the Cazimi happens next Tuesday on April the 11th. So today what I'd like to do is I'd like to go into depth in the third decan of Aries and break that down for you. I'd like to answer any questions that you have about, your own life and your own chart around this particular conjunction. So we're going to have a really interesting new start with Jupiter getting renewed in the heart of the sun. So I'll try to break that down in depth. We have an I Ching and an animal that will help guide us through this time. And I thought that maybe I would go and take the Jupiter Cazimi through the houses potentially, which I know has been popular when I have done that in the past. So I will try to do that today to the best of my ability. I'm going to pull a few more things up here as we get started. Do me a huge favor if you're stopping in. Please like this video, share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. That always really helps please the algorithmic gods. A couple things that I have going on here as well are some sales. So the decans of Aries, which I'm pulling up, that's what I'm doing here. I'm actually trying to find the decans of Aries PDF of the slides so that I can share that with you today. I'm going to, it's on sale. Sorry for the distraction. It is on sale until the 20th of April. So if you like some of the things that you're experiencing today through our exploration of the decans of Aries, you can get a 3-hour in-depth talk where I talk about the tarot cards, the mythology, the planet Mars, the fixed stars, all of the things that I've been pouring my energy and research into. You can find that on my website, spencermichaud.com, in the store link. You can get 20% off of that until the 20th, the end of Aries season. I also am very excited about book club, which I call guided group study. So it's a little bit more than a book club. It's we pick a book, but then we open charts and we look at charts together. We go over technique. We have discussions. There's a Discord group. This particular session in the spring, we're going to be doing The Flowering Wand by Sophie Strand, which is an amazing book. Really excited about this book and its ability to help us move through the challenges of the time, to be able to dive into myth, to be able to understand what is needed for these times as far as the ecological challenges that we face potentially. A lot of really great reframing of certain myths that might really help us to create a shared language to be able to talk to clients about some of the challenges that we face in a modern world. I think it's just a really beautiful book, very, very, very well written, very poetic, and I hope that you'll join me for that. That's Guided Group Study Spring 2023. I've pinned a link to that in this chat here today, so please join me. We're going to be starting on April the 17th, so we are almost ready to get going. So reserve your spot today. Okay, I'm going to welcome a few friends here. I always enjoy this. These lives, these Q&As are always a lot of fun. Just being able to see all your smiling faces. Let's see what we've got here today, friends. So, welcome. Rachel Fletcher is joining us from Virginia. It's been a rather emotional full moon day, so I am delighted to gather with this great company of folks. Yeah, I did choose to do this on the full moon as well. I don't know if that was specifically or if that was intentional or not, but I mostly was trying to elect the Jupiter day and Jupiter hour. But we happen to do it on the full moon, with the moon today at this moment on the fixed star of Spica. So pretty fortunate fixed star. So I hope you're having a good full moon experience out there. I know full moons can always be a little bit challenging and a lot of emotions running high, and especially with trying to establish our own personal sovereignty versus the oaths and agreements and contracts that we have with other people. So hope you're moving through that with grace today. Lisa Newcomb is here joining us from upstate New York. Hello, Lisa. Nice to see you, friend. Dawn Fisher joining us from Mobile, Alabama, heading to pick up the kiddo. So just listening today. All right, Dawn. Well, good luck with your pickup, and I'm glad that you're listening in today. Nicola Allen is here. She says, "Oh, this is a nice surprise. Hello from Scotland." Well, hello, friend. I would like to visit there someday. I love all our international friends. I'm hoping that I'm cultivating I don't know, the ability to crash on all of your couches someday if we want to travel the world. I would just love to visit all your corners of the world. That'd be great. Lynn McMillan is here from Vermont. Hello, Lynn. Nice to see you. She says, glad the power and internet are on. I am too, Lynn. I was a little nervous yesterday because we had some severe weather that was coming through our area, and we were spared. Like we were, blessed with grace where the storm just kind of split around us. And I think that the town I live in, Ypsilanti, Michigan, has been hit pretty hard with the winter, with the ice, and we already went through our week of having the power out. So I'm very, very grateful that we were spared this time. So yes, here we are. Jacina Jana is here from Chicago, watching from the pet emergency room. Oh boy, everyone's getting full moon today. That sounds stressful, Jessica. I'm sorry to hear that. I know our little fur babies are the very special little folks in our lives, and I've gone through a few pet emergencies. So wishing you well today, Jacina, and hope everything's going on with your everything's going well with your little fur baby. Quite Bright is joining us from Australia. Says it is 5 a.m. Friday morning here. Wow, I appreciate your commitment. I love when we have people from the other side of the world joining us. We have to kind of arrange time zones, but I'm glad that we were able to link up today, friend. So thank you for that. Carolina Zerpa is here. Says happy to be able to attend today. Hello from Barcelona, Spain. Hello, friend. Another international friend. I bet it's beautiful there today. Jennifer DeRocher is joining me from my own backyard of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Welcome, friend. Nice to see you. Jade 6 is here from Poland. Today was crazy good. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Look at these comments. I love all these comments. I'm just going to keep welcoming you, friends. Carla Messier is here. Hello, Carla. KP1231 is joining from Cleveland. Laura Etta is joining us from Vancouver, Washington. Says this Jupiter Cazimi falls exactly opposite my natal Jupiter Chiron conjunction in Libra on the 11th. Okay, so we'll help break that down for you. Open for lots of Jupiterian and full moon insight. I'll try to do my best. Devin Malone is here. Hello, Devin and Katie from Portland. Nice to see you, friends. I'm getting my pollinator garden ready to go. I went out and saw some of my little baby bee balms that I planted last year that are coming back. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to be hitting the gardening pretty hard in the next couple weeks here. So thinking about all of you out there. EK Beth is here. Hello, Beth. Nice to see you. Okay. I think, and A Nancy is here. Hello, Nancy. Nice to see you from Maryland. Good to see you, friend. And Tanya Gerardo is joining us from Mesa, Arizona. Okay. Well, if you're joining us in the next few minutes, feel free to pop in the chat. Tell us where you're from. I'll try to get to all of the questions, all the comments today. But it's so wonderful to welcome all of you with today. I'm going to get a drink real quick. So I figured we'd go a few hours today. I got a shake, so I've got some calories to help the brain cells work. I've been trying to eat a little bit of a cleaner diet lately. My partner Tanya introduced me to this guy. His name's Brian Johnson. He's like he's like a tech millionaire bro or something. And it's all very silly, but he made a lot of money and he decided he wanted to try to age backwards. So he's been testing himself with all these like metrics and trying to eat all this clean food. And I'm not going to go to that extreme because, to be honest with you, I can't afford it. But I've been inspired by some of his eating habits, one of which is to have some lentils and some steamed cauliflower and some shiitake mushrooms for lunch. I've been trying to cut, way back on the gluten and the sugar, and I'll tell you, I'm feeling pretty good today. I'm feeling like this is a good start to try to just, purge all the bad stuff out and have the energy that we need to move forward in the day. So let's dive in. Um, if you are having questions about the Jupiter Cazimi, and let's do our best today. If you have a question, and maybe keep it Jupiter focused, and a couple parameters that might help us with this. I want you to focus on the Aries area of your chart, and I'm going to spend the first 15 20 minutes or so at least, like kind of breaking down how I see the Cazimi, the third decan of Aries. And then I will go through the houses, and I want you to pay particular attention to the Aries area, the Cancer area of your chart, because Mars is going to be the host from Cancer. So we're going to be drawing energy from that Mars in Cancer, which is can be challenging. This Cazimi is not all just wonder and joy. Like it's there's some good stuff in there, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit of a challenge with Mars and Cancer. I also want you to really pay specific attention to the Pisces and the Sagittarius areas of your chart and the topics associated with them, because Jupiter is going to be feeding energy to those areas and getting a new start, getting a renewal. I think that this Jupiter Cazimi is going to have more power to help you in the Sagittarius topic of your life, because it does witness by trine. It is in aversion to the Pisces area, so that might not be able to be providing as many resources as we would like, but the Sagittarius area is going to get a boost. So we'll try to connect all those dots for you as we go here. Okay. So Quite Bright is asking, Spencer, could you please speak to the difference between Jupiter in a day sect chart and Jupiter in a night sect chart? Yes, I will do that. One of the interesting things, Quite Bright, is that today, as we talk about Jupiter in Aries, there is a type of essential dignity called triplicity. And Jupiter in a night chart would have triplicity dignity. Jupiter in the fire signs in a night chart would have triplicity dignity. Which means that the traditional astrologers thought of that as having communal support for the work that you want to do, the wind in your sails, a fortunate wind blowing you in a nice direction. Now, unfortunately, Jupiter does not have triplicity dignity in a day chart in the fire signs. So that's one thing that we're looking at with the Cazimi. Depending on where you are in the world, it may have triplicity dignity or it may not. Where I'm at, the conjunction is happening at 6:07 p.m., which is still technically the day, so Jupiter would not have triplicity dignity. So we'll go through that. I hope that's helpful. Just as far as Jupiter in a day or a night sect in general, well, a planet that's in its own sect has the ability to sort of have political power. I guess that would be the best way to describe it. There are less compromises that the planet has to make in a day chart for Jupiter than it would in a night chart. In a night chart, Jupiter's still going to be Jupiter. It's still going to provide benevolence and things of that nature. If it's in good condition or in a good house, those are qualifications. But we also may need to make a compromise with some of the other planets in the chart, some of the night sect planets, which in this case would be the Moon, Mars, and Venus, right? So another thing to think about with a benefic planet like Jupiter, if it's in a night chart, or vice versa, if Venus is in a day chart, sometimes the topic that is associated with that planet will leave us in a space where we benefit others through our actions, but we might tend to, I don't know if suffering is the right word, but it may be at our expense on some level. So if you have Jupiter in a night chart, you may be providing some good in that topic through your actions, okay, through the actions that you take consciously. But it may be exhausting. It may burn you out or something like that. An example of this is I have Venus in a day chart in the 11th house in Gemini. So sometimes I'll get involved in a group and I'll bring a lot of harmony and unity, but I'll get very tired doing it, or maybe I won't always benefit personally the way that others might if it was a night chart or something like that. Doesn't mean I don't like the work, and doesn't mean that Venus isn't blessing me in that 11th house. It just sometimes there's compromises that have to be made within the group Although I will say, if you have a planet in its own terms, you kind of get to set the curriculum. That's the beauty of what I have in my chart is Venus is in its own terms. So I sort of say, this is what I would like to happen. And then I help facilitate that. So I hope that answers your question. I hope that was a good answer for Jupiter in a day versus a night chart, which is important as we look at this Cazimi. Okay. Devin says Mars in Cancer fighting against the tide, swimming upstream. Yeah, we've talked about that in this channel, haven't we, Devin? We are going to have to kind of go with the flow a little bit. Nicholas says, I'm so ready for renewal. Yeah, me too. This is going to be a really interesting day, I think. For me personally, this is going to be the 1-year anniversary of my mom passing. So there'll be a lot of feelings and thoughts, but maybe celebrations. You know, I was thinking about how to properly celebrate her life on that day in particular, after having some space from it and being able to process. And I'll go into that more as we talk about just the third decan of Aries, these celebrations, these momentary respites, these oases that we might have in our life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring up the decans of Aries slide that I have for Aries 3. So we'll break that down first, and then that will help us to understand what we're dealing with. So I'm going to share my screen. And this is the Aries 3 decan slide from my Decans of Aries webinar. You can see that we are looking at the 4 of Wands. Okay. 4 of Wands is our syncretized, whoops, where did it go? There it is our syncretized tarot card with Aries 3. Okay. Each of the minor arcana are associated or syncretized with a particular 10-degree section of the zodiac, or decan, or face, they call them. So in this case, we are looking at a fairly positive card. This is one of the cards that tarot slingers or people who get this card are like, oh, that looks like a nice card, a celebration of sorts. Like we see depicted this kind of wedding ceremony or wedding party. This particular structure, I believe, is called a huppah. It represents the new home that is created when a couple gets married, and its openness to people and the welcoming of people into that home. It's a celebration, right? We've gone through these interesting times with Aries, where in the first decan of Aries, we've been working on establishing what we are and what we are not. Okay. We've rejected what we aren't. We've separated from the collective. We've done Mars in a Mars sign type of energy. In the second decan, we have established our personal sovereignty in the solar decan. Okay, this is where we are at right now in the second decan of Aries. We are near the exaltation of the sun, and we're making kind of the royal decrees where we say, we already established what we're not. Now we're talking about what we are. We're trying to figure out how to organize our own personal life and what we want to do moving forward. When we get to Aries 3, we've done all that work. We've separated, we've established our individuality, we've established our personal sovereignty, we've decided how we want to govern the new world that we're trying to create. And then here in Aries 3, we have a Venus-ruled decan in a Mars-ruled sign. So that's important to think about those types of differences. So first of all, Venus is not the most comfortable in a Mars-ruled sign, okay, because it is in its exile. But Venus has some special powers in this particular phase, this particular decan. And those powers are to be able to win over people with humor, charisma, powers of attraction, in a difficult situation, in maybe a situation where we're having a conflict or we're trying to establish our own sense of self. So this is the decan that is associated with getting people on board with your vision, with being able to have this kind of momentary rest in a long journey. So there's 2 different books that really break this down in depth. We've got 36 Secrets by Austin Coppock and 36 Faces by T. Susan Chang. 36 Faces talks about this decan as being the charismatic Eros figure, where we have the little cherub that has the gold tipped arrows, also lead tipped arrows. That's important to recognize, that can either inflame people's passions or can cause people to reject you, right? The lead arrows really drive people away. So this is something to consider: is your expression attracting people, attracting a following, or is the way that you're expressing yourself pushing people away? So that's one of the things to think about with the daimon or spirit with this decan, which is Eros. So how do we use our social graces to, I mean, for lack of a better term, to get what we want, right? To get what we want as individuals. This is a decan where we kind of say, look at how wonderful it is if you just follow me. Come on, like, just I'm going this way. You want to go? And you don't have to force it. Like, that's the thing. You don't have to insist necessarily. You just make your direction, your chosen direction, as sexy as possible, and then people can choose to get on board or not. And that's kind of the Aries energy is, I'm going this way, and you can get on board with the train or you can not, right? And in this decan, there's less of the like original Aries energy of fuck off, I'm just gonna be me and screw you. Like, it's more like, hey, I'm hopping on board this train. It's a good direction. Let's all go together, type of deal. So that's kind of the 36 Faces understanding of it, right? The humor, the charisma, the motivational speaker aspect. Like, imagine you're a general in a war or something of that nature, and you're trying to inspire the troops. You're in a really difficult situation, and you're trying to bring inspiration to people. Think about like let's use the sports metaphor. You're in the middle of a really intense competition, a really like a championship game, and the coach pulls everyone aside and says, "All right, everyone, we got to really get it together. We've got to, you've really got to dig deep for your inner passion so we can all be on the same page to achieve this singular goal." Pep talks, right? So we're looking at Jupiter, and Jupiter is really about the actions that we can take that are conscious. It has to do with belief systems. It has to do with bringing order. It has to, it has themes of like philosophical explorations. It's also a planet associated with begetting things into form. All right, with like, we've talked on this channel in the past about Saturn being maybe the archetypal blueprint, showing us maybe the limitations of what is possible. Like, this is saying, here's the structure of I don't know, this is what a plant is, idealistically. And then Jupiter comes along and says, okay, I've got a ficus plant, I've got a flower, I've got, purple cone flowers, I've got bee balm. It's just begetting all of these different forms of a flower, right? Or a plant. When we have Saturn bringing us the idealized version that is more intellectual, I would say. And that's something that I'm kind of drawing from Charles Obert's book, The Seven Classical Planets, talking about the relationship between Saturn and Jupiter. So we may be getting into form a new way to get people on board with our vision. So here are some of the themes that we're talking about here. Setting hearts aflame, gaining a following, sex appeal, seduction, and erotic desire, temporary refuges and fleeting passions. This is kind of the T. Susan Chang version of this card in this decan. She talks more about an oasis on a long journey. What we know about Aries is that Aries is it's a start. It's not necessarily the energy of sustaining something over the long term. It's the force and the yang force necessary to make a start. So she really leans into the celebration on the journey before the longer journey. So she compares it to Rivendell on the road to Mordor. I love that metaphor. Like, it's this beautiful space. They're resting up. They're gaining supplies. They're healing. but they've still got a long way to go. And they know it in the back of their mind. So they can't rest on their laurels. There's still a journey to go through. Okay. But you can have this is the decan, I think, that's associated with having a party, like having a celebration, acknowledging that you've come this far on the journey. T. Susan Chang warns that Venus in this decan, now we're talking about Jupiter here, but remember, we've got the energy of Venus that is informing this decan, spending like a drunken sailor, right? When we want something, we may pursue it with passion, whereas Venus is a decan, or as a planet that would be better served maybe opening and receiving, right? Not in all cases. There are exceptions, especially when Venus is in her morning star phase and becomes a warrior goddess. But this decan is kind of about pursuing what you want and getting other people on board with it. So you can also compare this to the wedding party before settling in for the long marriage, right? We always have these celebrations. They are ceremonies. I think ceremony is another signification with this decan. So the sephira that is associated with this on the Kabbalistic tree of life is Hesed in Atziluth. And Hesed is a Jupiter sephira, or kind of an energetic center. In the tree of life, they have different energetic centers that give us metaphorical meanings. And Hesed is where we have an abundance of a certain element, like fire or passion. It is balanced on the other side by Gevura, which is a Mars ruled decan, which sets limitations. So sometimes we might experience lack or separation. And we need that sometimes if we're feeling an overabundance of things. So this may be where our passion is collected and we have to balance it out by doing something with it, right? Not just getting complacent at the party stage when we have more work to do. Okay, so just going down the themes list here: charisma, glamour magic, dramatic abilities. Both Austin Coppock and T. Susan Chang talk about the ability to perform in this decan, like a performance that will win people over to your side, winning over a hostile crowd. So some of the questions that we ask ourselves when planets are in this decan of Aries 3. How do you tap into your personal magnetism to motivate or attract? How can you use diplomacy and tact to get what you want? That's key, diplomacy and tact. We may have been a little bit severe lately when the sun was moving through the first and second decan of Aries. We may have been a little bit passive aggressive potentially with Mars moving through Cancer during that time. We may have been brooding, but not really using our diplomacy and tact, or even really being very direct about our needs and desires. So here we're learning how to bring those social graces back into the picture. So how can you celebrate who you've become, right? This is really that celebration we're talking about is the hard-won victory of personal sovereignty and individuality and independence. I think it's celebrating your independence. What methods might inspire people to see things your way? Now, this is interesting for the full moon in Libra as I'm recording this, isn't it? Because most of us today are probably being faced with a situation where we have a vision of the world that we want to create personally, but we have to, it's running up against a need for compromise, a need to check in with another. The decan that we're dealing with today with the full moon is the second decan, royalty, personal sovereignty, being opposed by the second decan of Libra, which is the Three of Swords, which has to do with oaths and contracts. Funny story, like a person in my life was dealing with a work issue where they were having some challenges with finding contracts. So they were having a lot of stress about finding contracts that needed to be audited or something of that nature. And my advice to them was, well, maybe have a clarifying conversation with the people who are asking you for those contracts rather than making assumptions about it. And after they went and got the clarifying information, the what they perceived as a personal failing was much less severe than they had originally thought, and they were able to provide what was being asked for. But I thought it was so funny that contracts were involved in that because of that decan. But it's something where we might need to have some clear communications with folks in our life during this time as well. Okay. If we don't talk about what we want or what we need, it's very difficult to get it sometimes. If we assume that people are just going to bring it to us, if we just are quote unquote good enough or patient enough or something of that nature, sometimes it'll either take longer or we may never get what we really need. So sometimes this might be a really good time to express what you really desire, for not only for yourself, but what value you can bring to others as well. Okay. So what says, what methods, we already talked about that. It says, is this relationship permanent or a torrid affair? Like, this could be a relationship to anything in your life. I want you to really look at the Aries area of your chart and see at this Jupiter Cazimi, is this something that you're going to build your life around? Or is this just maybe a temporary oasis, potentially? How can you gather strength for the long road ahead? That's bringing in our Rivendell metaphor. Okay, so this might be a nice time to rest. Might be a nice time to acknowledge how far that you've come. But again, not a time to rest on your laurels. We have a lot of Taurus energy that is coming after this Jupiter Cazimi that is going to require us to work hard. There's going to be a Mercury retrograde and Cazimi very shortly after this. There's going to be a Mercury Cazimi in the second decan of Taurus, just as Jupiter will emerge from the beams after this Cazimi of Jupiter, which is interesting. I'll break that down in the chart. I will show you all of this. But where Jupiter later in the year will also retrograde in Taurus. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. And all of that Taurus stuff is going to be squared by Pluto in Aquarius, and then squared by Mars in Leo. And there's going to be this T-square. So we're going to have some tension in that area. So this is I hesitate to call it the calm before the storm, but a time to gather a community, gather support for the long road ahead. Okay. So I'm going to stop my share here and take a look at the chat. I see a lot of nice comments coming in. I want to make sure that I acknowledge all of those. Okay, I'm going back. I know that some of these are it'll be a little bit from when I was explaining before. Jade is joining us from Poland. Hello, Jade. Carolina Zerpa says, nice hoodie color today. Yes, this is my lavender hoodie. For Jupiter's day, lavender or purple is a color associated with Zeus, and I'm wearing a dark green underneath in my capsule wardrobe. I figured I would look like a little crocus today, like the little crocuses that are the little flowers that are emerging in the beginning of spring, right? So I've got the stem here and then the crocus on the outside. So thank you for noticing that. I always appreciate when people give nice compliments around that. Let's see. I am looking through the chat and looking for questions. Okay. Yes, we've got people that are saying planting seasons around the corner. Beth says this is trining her 8th house in the chart. Okay, so we'll look at it. Oh, from the 12th. Okay. So I'll break that down and I'll kind of give you some insight as we move it through the houses eventually. Quite Bright says, thank you, Spencer. That info is really helpful. This is referring to the Jupiter in a day or a night chart, I think. I still have a lot to learn about triplicity and sect. Thank you for sharing your experience of out-of-sect benefic Venus. Yeah, I mean, it's all a process, friend. I mean, there's so much to learn in astrology, and you really, you learn through experience. You learn through hearing people's stories and connecting it with your own stories. I mean, it's a lifelong journey, and I'm so happy to be on that journey here with you today. Beth got the 4 of Wands today. Good. Thank you, Jennifer, for prayers for my mom. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a journey. It's been a journey recovering from the grief of loss and establishing a sense of maybe new independence after losing an important influence in my life. So it's there's been a lot of interesting things that have happened through that, and a lot of establishing who I am versus who um, I don't know, not just who she was, but who that side of the family was, and things of that nature. And here we are. Susanna is joining us from Finland. Hello, Susanna. Nice to see you. Okay, yes, the charismatic Decan. A's Creations is here. Hello, A. How you doing? Very happy birthday to all the great Aries. Yes, happy birthday, Aries friends. Jennifer says, looking at retirement soon, trying to figure out what I'll be doing for the next phase of my life. Okay, well, I'll try to help guide you through that. Maybe there's something that will be born at the Jupiter Cazimi. This is something else to think about with Cazimis in general. They are renewals of that planet's energy in the heart of the sun. So birth is actually a very good word to describe it. Something is being born. There has been old energy that's been burned away, and now we have a little baby intention that that planet is bringing us. So just pay attention on April the 11th when Jupiter makes its Cazimi with the sun as to what ideas pop into your brain as well. And recognize too that you don't have to do it all at once. I mean, that's I'm going to be saying this over the course of this talk today, but you have to have the energy to get started, but you have to learn to pace yourself too. The Taurus season that's coming is going to force us to pace ourselves. It's going to slow everything down. So this is a nice like boost to push through the ground like a little crocus. Here I am, a little crocus pushing through the ground. But then it's got to grow, right? It's got to, take in nutrients and energy, and then it's a slower process potentially. Devin is pointing out there's lots of Jupiter in Taurus this year while Venus is retrograding in Leo. Yeah, I mean, these are some of the things that are going to slow things down a little bit. The Venus retrograde in Leo in the summer, Jupiter retrograding in Taurus. I do think we're going to make some pretty incredible starts. You probably are already thinking of those new starts in your life, of how you want to define yourself. But there's work ahead. Beth is here. Hello, Beth. Beth Cummings is here from Ohio. Nice to see you, friend. Another Beth. Nicola says, Spencer, the little crocus. Yes, that's me. I'm a little crocus. This is one of my hoodie colors. I'm really enjoying like my little capsule wardrobe with the different colored hoodies. I think it's brought a little bit of color and beauty into my adornment schedule. I can't believe I wore, this is like looking back on it, it's just kind of sad. I was so attached to that one green hoodie. I think I wore it pretty much every day. And it's just nice to be able to branch out a little bit with different energy and different colors. Dawn says, so this unsteady feeling is going to get worse this year. Hold on. For this Sag rising, bless my soul. Maybe, but only if you let it. I think outer circumstances can make us feel unsteady. And when our outer worlds become more chaotic, that is when it's important to cultivate our inner awareness, our inner calm, and our inner peacemaking abilities. And that's where we do have the choice, right? Oftentimes we don't have a choice of what circumstances are coming to us that will stabilize us or otherwise, or destabilize us. But I do think we can choose how to react to those circumstances for the most part. There's certain things that we just have to do. And that's where the stoicism comes in. But I think there's little things that we can do. I really actually liked what I saw of Ashley Ellenboss actually had a really nice story the other day. She's a Taurus, double Taurus, sun and moon. And she was talking about taking care of the living things first, which I thought was a very Taurus way of doing things. And so if you're feeling the stress and the destabilization, take care of your plants, take care of your animals, take care of your body, get enough sleep, get enough food, really attuned to the hierarchy of needs. And if you have to go lower on the hierarchy of needs to get your base stability back in order, then that's okay. Maybe, your most highest philosophical aspirations have to wait until you get these other things taken care of. I thought that was really wise, so I wanted to just give her a shout out. I thought that was a really good story, especially thinking about how we're going to be heading into some energy that might feel a little bit destabilizing moving forward. Devin is asking what's around my neck. This is a malachite and lapis amalgamation that I wear pretty much every day. We'll also show you, friends, there's some interesting stuff I have underneath the surface today too. I have a phenakite rock right here, a little kyanite kind of sword, and then today I'm wearing an Aries Decan 2 talismanic ring. So I thought, since we're talking about Aries today, I would just, bathe in it. So Devin's gotten some intuition that I'm wearing something special today, and I am. Okay. So let me keep looking down the chats here. Such great comments. I love it. I love all of your enthusiasm here today. Jade says, oh, hello, Stephen. Stephen the Jupiterian is here. Nice to see you, friend. Jade 6 says, maybe you could celebrate your mom by planting a tree, maybe her favorite tree. That is a wonderful idea, Jade. And I think that would actually be a really good gesture and a really great celebration. My mother loved to garden. Like, she was somebody who had a lot of chaos in her life, in her early life. She was a Gemini sun. She actually had Mars in Cancer and Venus in Cancer, the Libra rising. But she has some challenges in her life, and a lot of movement, a lot of trying to figure out what the true meaning of freedom was. And as she got older, she found a lot of peace in her garden and creating her garden and creating change through her garden. Like, she and I were both 5 life paths, if you're into numerology, and 5 is associated with learning how to make changes in your life, I think, on some level, and also with the 5 senses. And instead of having to completely blow up everything in her life, like which she sort of had some instances of that as a younger person, she learned that she could change little things like in her garden and come into alignment with the seasons. And I think that's a really great idea, Jade. Trying to think about what her favorite tree would be. I know my favorite tree is probably either a red bud or a white pine. And I was thinking about planting a white pine at the preschool that she used to work at, but it's in Chicago. I don't know. But planting it in the yard where I can visit it every day might be a better use of that energy. So maybe a red bud with a dedication to her. So great idea. But yes, part of my motivation for doing my pollinator garden this year is to just carry on that legacy. There are lots of ways we can carry on the legacy of the people that have crossed over and passed on. And I think what I'd like to do, and I think what is important for all of us, is to take the best of that person. Even if you had a difficult relationship in some parts of your life with them, try to see the best of them that you can carry on to the next generation. And for me and my mom, I think that her ability to create and connect with nature is maybe one of the best parts of her. Okay. Beth says, so much to learn in astrology. Yes, you're so right. I love learning it, but the more I learn, the more I realize there's so much more to learn. It's endless. You'll spend lifetimes doing it. But I think you just have to take your time. Be okay being where you're at while also aspiring towards growth. It's always a healthy balance that you're trying to strike, Beth. I think that the irony of it, or the paradox, one of the two, I'm not sure which it is, but is that the more that you learn, sometimes it feels like the more there is to learn. So you have to kind of pace yourself, and I would say that it's important not to feel like you've arrived. I mean, you could celebrate little milestones, as we're being encouraged to do in the Jupiter, Cazimi. But when we think that we have everything figured out, that's when I think we're tempting fate and tempting the gods or the planets to strike down our hubris. And hubris being, like going against divine will and divine order. And that hubris can really lead to some painful experiences. So yeah, I think stay curious is what I will say. But also don't try not to compare yourself to others. We're all at different places in the journey. There are lots of people in my life that I feel maybe got a head start on me, quote unquote, which is not really. Everyone's exactly where they're supposed to be at the time. But it's, you know, it's human nature to make comparisons. But I think what I'm learning, I think what I'm trying to share with you is that, we're all where we need to be right at this moment. And you're here for a reason. And just being here and being curious about these things is part of being part of your growth on the path, or part of our growth together on this path. Jennifer says, my mom is in a nursing home and it's very hard. She is now like a child and I'm the parent. Yeah, that's a tough one, Jennifer. And I have compassion for you in that. My mom had a severe stroke about 4 years ago now. And yeah, I witnessed the same challenge with her. And I think, again, what I was talking about maybe pacing yourself emotionally is important as you move through this phase, which is really difficult. And taking care of yourself is really important in that phase as well. We need to be able to recharge our own batteries. Like maybe this Jupiter Cazimi is your oasis, Jennifer, to recharge your batteries at Rivendell and with something beautiful, and something that recharges your spirit and your passion, so that you can carry on the long journey of the caretaking with your mom. Steven says, I hope that a huge project I've been planning will come to be. Jupiter Cazimi in my 5th. Well, I hope so too, Steven. Probably something creative. And we'll break it down as we move through the Jupiter Cazimi through the houses. Tarja T is here from Finland. We've got 2 Tarjas that join us from Finland. Welcome to both of you if you're listening today. EK Beth says, you've inspired me to try to wear planetary colors as well. Great. Yes, this is a great way to connect with the planets, is to get into their vibration, their color vibration. I would not have been a person that could have envisioned myself wearing light purple as a younger person. That was just not something that was in my color palette. I like it though now. I dig it. I think I feel good in it. I still have trouble with red. Mars energy is something I'm still trying to come to terms with, being the malefic out of sect. I'm getting more comfortable in black. I wasn't really someone who liked wearing black. I always love green because Venus is kind of my jam with the Taurus moon. But we can all learn to embrace different versions of ourselves and different energetic vibrations, I think. Steven says, oh yes, I'm a Sagittarius rising, been more creative lately. Good. Quite Bright says, it was a Jupiter day yesterday here in Australia. I had the idea to wear a t-shirt the same color as your hoodie, but I didn't make the connection to Jupiter. Well, there you go. Sometimes the planets work through us and we don't even necessarily have to make it conscious. So I love that synchronicity. Okay, Susanna has a question. She says, what would you say about the Cazimi to a Capricorn ascendant with Mars in the 4th house, with a Mars 4th house perfection year going on? I'm asking because I have a lot to do around the home area during spring, like repainting. That is a good question, Susanna. And I will dive into that further in depth as we take the Jupiter Cazimi through the houses. I would say that I would first, just briefly, I would acknowledge how far you've come with the work that you've done around your home and the new start that you've created there. I think celebrating your achievements will give you the motivation to keep going. You may have some challenges with Mars in your 7th house, with trying to maybe get partners on board with the vision that you have for your life, or for the home in particular. And I would recommend taking your time, having clear communication. Don't make assumptions. Have patience. One of the things I'm having to learn with creating my garden at my home is that it's not going to be a Martha Stewart-esque garden overnight. I'm going to have to put in a lot of hard work and sweat and energy. And it's, gardens can also, cost resources. And when you are living in a limited budget, you might not be able to buy everything right away either. So you have to pace yourself. You have to set yourself a budget. You have to set yourself an energetic budget as well. I think budgeting our energy is really important. So that new start that you have in your fourth house, take your time with it, right? But celebrate your achievements and how far you've come. And I'll talk more about it as we get to the Cap Rising part. Dawn says, Phenakite again, Spirit, I see you. Okay, good. Yeah, this Phenakite, yeah, is a really interesting piece. So I really love this stone. This is the result of going to my local rock store, the World of Rocks in Ypsilanti, and they had this punch card that, but there was previous ownership that you did these punch cards where you spend some money there and they would punch it, and then after they punched so many punches, you'd get a free rock. And the previous owner, like you had to spend like something wild, like $300, like it was excessive before you got your free $20 rock or whatever it was. It was nutty. It was very expensive, and I, chose this as my reward for spending the money there. And she kind of looked at me side eye. Her name was Gail. She was cool. She's kind of I think she was a Capricorn. Like I love her, but she had this gruff way about her. And I'm like, how about this Phenakite? She looked at me and it's like, oh, okay. Like, you come in here every day. She got to know me pretty well, and she was a really nice lady. But yes, gruff. Okay. A's Creation says, great idea planting a tree. I'm still trying to work out what theme I'll be doing this year. And last year was a fruitful garden, so I can't wait to see everything blossom. Yeah, that's another thing I'm noticing too. I planted just a few pollinators in one part of my garden that it was already kind of cultivated last year. And they didn't really do that well because I planted them late July, early August. It was too late in the year. They grew a little bit, but I'm seeing the little the bee balms coming back, and that's exciting to me because now they're having a whole season to be established and grow, and that patience might be paying off. Like, we don't always see the results right away, and I think sometimes we have to work through it. And thank you, Susanna, for the super chat. If you're enjoying this discussion today, you can support the work that I do by leaving a super chat or a super sticker, which is by clicking the little $sign in the chat. That really helps me support the work that I do. You'd be contributing to just keeping the lights on here, to the pollinator habitat, to any research materials that I begin. This is just kind of the way I support myself doing this work. So I appreciate all of you and your generosity. Okay. All right. Oh, Jennifer says I have my purple amethyst bracelet on. Yeah, I have an amethyst in my pocket today. So amethyst is a stone associated with Jupiter and Zeus as well. Okay, so I am going to bring the chart up, and I'm going to just go more in depth with the chart, and we are going to dive into the chart and take it through the houses. I would like to take this opportunity before we do that to stretch out a little bit, okay, and let you absorb the chart. Make sure, or do me a favor, a huge favor, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. Please share with your friends. Sign up for the newsletter if you want to know when new live streams are happening. Sometimes it's good to sign up for the newsletter because there are times when I'll get a whim and I'll go, or I'll be really, really busy, and it'll take me some time to tell people about when I'm going live. Like, for example, today I advertised this yesterday, and it might be easy to miss if you don't, if you're not subscribed on either the channel or the newsletter. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Spencer Michaud, and I do a lot of reminders over there. And on Instagram lately, I've been, it's a creative outlet for me. The promotion that I do, I pick songs. Yesterday, I picked Thunderstruck by AC/DC to promote this, which was a nod to Zeus. And I found this cool little filter where it'll make lightning shoot out of your eyes, which I thought was super cool. So that was kind of fun. So make sure you follow me over on Instagram, and I'm a little bit less active on Twitter, but sometimes I'll pop in there and say hi to folks too. Devin says Katie's bees have started to trickle out of the hive on top of the hotel lately. Can't wait for our new hive in May. Nice. Yeah, I would love to get into doing some bee stuff eventually. That may have to be another season, but super cool that you're doing that. I think my first step is to create the environment that would support them with the flowers and the native plants. And I left a lot of leaves on the ground this year too for the pollinators. I didn't really, I left a lot of unmulched leaves for the little bugs to do their thing. Susanna says, I love gardening, though I wouldn't say I'm very good at it. Learning more every summer. My favorite tree is rowan. Oh, cool. I wonder if that is more of a Nordic tree. That's not one that I'm that familiar with. So I'll have to check that out. I wonder if they're native to America or just Northern Europe. So that's cool though. It's such a great way to relax and connect with the earth. I went on a really nice little oasis trip the other day to my botanical gardens in my southeast Michigan area, the Mathi Botanical Gardens. Just really beautiful. It was so nice to be near a little creek as well and connect with the water element in the spring. So check out ways that you can connect in small ways, even if you don't own land or anything like that. I know that is very much a privilege to own space that you can garden on. And for many, many, many years, I did not have that privilege. Like I lived in an apartment that I rented, and we did make the best of it. We had a nice community garden that we went and gardened at, but we are so very fortunate now to own the home that we live in. And it is nice to be able to connect in that way. But even if you can't do that, so many ways to connect. I saw there's another account that I follow on Instagram called the Black Forager. And she's just a bundle of amazing energy. She's got some really great Gemini energy, but she's a forager. And she talks about land and how, much of this land that we're on is, stolen land. And it's very difficult to be able to, not everyone has the opportunity to garden at their own space. But if you don't have your own space, go out and forage around in the woods or wherever you can get your hands on some breathing in some good air and whatnot. Sometimes you have to go a little bit further afield, but it's worth it. And I'll tell you, even once a week doing that is a balm for the soul. I'm thinking about incorporating that into my routine. Is the place I'm in, I have a small yard. It's not a big yard. I would love to have acreage, like acres of land, but that's not what I have here. I just have, I don't know, maybe just a quarter of an acre. It's not that much at all, but enough that I can plant some flowers. But I would love to be able to have a woods that I'd just be able to sit in all day, staring off into space and thinking philosophical thoughts. I live at a very busy intersection at a stoplight, and it's overwhelming sometimes. But just going to the woods, going to the stream, it really just charged me up for the entire week. So if you can get out to that space, that I'll tell you what, it is so worth it. Thank you so much, Laura, for your super sticker. I appreciate you. I love the little fox there. Thank you so much. A's Creation says, the garden has really taught me to be grounded and patient in everyday life too. My birthday is on the 16th, and thriving for a better year, hoping. I'm not sure what that word is, but yes, I am wishing you a happy year as well, and happy birthday, upcoming birthday. Anna K, Love Thunderstruck. Yeah, that was a song that used to come on. I used to be a hockey player when I was a kid, and they played all these songs to get you pumped up to play hockey. And that was one that they always put on. It was a lot. It really just got you amped up, Let's see. Lots of rowan trees in Scotland. Amazing berries, says Nicola. Okay. Stephen is a fan of the Crystal Council. which is, I believe, your local crystal store. Very nice. Okay. Yes, Jennifer, who is in my stomping grounds here, is confirming that Mathi is a wonder. It is so beautiful. It's really a nice space. It's many, it's hundreds of acres, I think, of just protected space, and it's just so beautiful. We're so lucky to have that here in southern Michigan, access to lots of just different types of environments. And Michigan can be rough in the winter. It can be gray, it can be cold and snowy and dreary. But in the spring and the summer and early fall, whew, it is pretty. And we've got fresh water, and we used to have fairly temperate temperatures. It's been getting hot lately, but we'll see. Oh yes, bonsais. Yes, they have a bonsai garden there, which is not quite open yet. I wanted to visit that, but it's not open yet. It will be in a little bit. Okay, friends, let's take a look at this chart. But thank you. Keep the comments coming. I'm here for you today. I'm here for your questions and to help you unpack this this event. And your interaction, it fills my heart up. So thank you. So we're looking at the Jupiter Cazimi at 21 degrees Aries on April 11th, 2023. We've already broken down the third decan of Aries. We've started touching on what it might mean for individuals, but there's a couple things that I would like to point out about this Jupiter Cazimi that you're seeing here. And what is a Cazimi? That's a fancy word, right? Cazimi is a fancy word for it means in the heart of the sun. And every planet has what is called a synodic cycle. So a relationship to the sun. So when a planet like Jupiter, which is a superior planet, okay, it is a planet that is in the celestial sphere model of the universe, was above the rotation of the sun, or the sphere of the sun. Really, it just means it's kind of its synodic cycle, the time that it takes for it to come back to its original position, is much slower than the sun would be. So Jupiter does come into conjunction with the sun once a year. Okay, so this is something where we can get a renewal for both the Pisces area of our charts, as I was discussing, and the Sagittarian area. And as I was mentioning earlier in the broadcast, the Cazimi does witness the fifth house. Okay, it's in a trine position. It is not in the overcoming trine, okay, but it does witness the Sagittarian area of our chart by trine, although it does not witness the Pisces area. So that's really not getting as much support from this Cazimi as we would hope for. What is getting some support, though, and this is kind of cool too, is Jupiter is in the overcoming trine to the Leo area of your chart, and the sun is in its exaltation. So I would really focus on the fire signs for this Jupiter Cazimi, because you can really get a nice boost to both the Leo topics in your life and the Sagittarius topics in your life. I'm super excited for this because my rising sign is 21 degrees Leo. So I have this Cazimi happening in my ninth house, exactly trying my natal ascendant. So I'm hoping this will be a nice experience. And maybe it'll be a celebration of my mom's life, or maybe there'll be more people signing up for my class. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Like, I'm trying to encourage you to sign up for a guided group study, spring 2023. Or maybe this will just be a really nice celebration of how far we've all come together as individuals and how far we've come. I feel, for me, what I'm anticipating with this is I'm planning on maybe doing some work in my garden this weekend. And I think that I'll be able to see the beginning of that taking shape. I posted like a Photoshop version of my garden on my Instagram stories the other day. And it just made me so happy to see a vision of what it could become. And it is really exciting when we see a vision just starting to take shape, even in its nascent form. So that might be something that you might see as well here. That's what I'm hoping for in my life. Okay, so the Cazimi is the coming together of Jupiter and the sun. The sun is like a furnace, okay, literally and metaphorically. So when a planet goes within 15 degrees of the sun, it's said to be under the beams of the sun. and it's like some person or figure taking to its sickbed. So for Jupiter area, the Jupiter areas of our life have probably been feeling a little bit, you know, either like we're doing things behind the scenes, or maybe there isn't as much things happening visibly as we would hope. But Jupiter's getting a lot of dross burned away from it as it's been going under the beams of the sun leading up to this Cazimi. And then after we're burning away all the old crap, we're going to get this burst of energy and inspiration at the Cazimi. That's why Cazimis are so fun, right? We get this burst of energy and inspiration. And then as it separates, we're incorporating that energy and inspiration into our lives. And then when it emerges, and in this case, Jupiter will be emerging as the morning star at 26 degrees of Aries, while the sun is at 11 degrees of Taurus. Now, I'll take the chart through to show you that, because I think this is important for our Cazimi. This is important for our Cazimi energy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this chart again and see if I can make it work with two. All right, so let's do this. We'll take it through a few days in the future. If I can make it, there we go. So you can see, all right. So now I'm moving the chart, and the outer ring is this. You can see the Jupiter and the sun separating from one another. Okay, and you can see the sun moves faster than Jupiter, so it's separating away from Jupiter. So we're looking for a 15-degree arc of separation between the sun and Jupiter. So here is the sun at 11 degrees, finally making that 15-degree separation. And thank you, Nancy, for your super sticker today. I appreciate you. Appreciate that. So here, Jupiter is at 26 degrees of Aries. The sun, interestingly enough, this is May 1st that I'm looking at, is at 11 degrees of Taurus. And how fun is this? We have Mercury, who had turned retrograde earlier in the cycle in Taurus, second decan of Taurus, making its Cazimi of the sun just as Jupiter emerges from the beams. So that's fun. So there is messages that come our way that could help us to understand what this Jupiter cycle may be all about, maybe we are gathering the resources that we need to really gain the following that we need, right? So this is something that we might be working out, through the 1st of May. And all these changes that you're trying to make, you're probably going to see, some movement with that in the first part of May. Now, it's not all sunshine and roses, because Mercury could cause some delays. So even though you have the vision, it may still take a little bit, because you're reevaluating your daily habits, your daily routines, how you give and receive benefits to others, with Mercury coming in conjunction with the sun in the second decan of Taurus. And throughout all of this, our friend Mars is in its fall. And that is not a comfortable place for Mars. And that's worth pointing out, because Mars is the host of this Cazimi. So here I've showed you Jupiter emerging from the beams, when we might be able to see visibly the results of some of the actions that we initiated at the Cazimi moment. But I'm going to go back to just one chart here, because I'm going to break this down even further. Okay, so here we have Mars as our host at 8 degrees of Cancer, which is interesting, because there's a fixed star that is within this range of degrees called Alhina. And Alhina is the heel of Pollux. Pollux being one of the twins of Gemini. Now you're like, oh, Spencer, Mars is in Cancer though. Well, because of an astrological phenomenon or an astronomical phenomenon called precession, the stars of Gemini are actually in the tropical zodiacal sign of Cancer in Western tropical astrology. So we're looking at some of the themes and stories of Gemini coming and coloring this particular point in the zodiac, which I think is interesting. So Alhina is nicknamed the proudly marching one, which basically means that the heel or any feet of a god or a constellation, when they are touching the earth, that's difficult for a god, for a deity. That it's painful for a god. So we may have something that is important to us that we are willing to stand up for ourselves or for others, but it may cause us a little bit of pain. There may be some challenges around it. This decan of Cancer is associated with the Two of Cups. All right, so there may be some dicey conversations where we are expecting cooperation. We may be getting conflict, especially in personal one-on-one relationships. It is, yeah, I don't know. Here's like just a mini kind of like example of this. And I apologize in advance to my partner, but my partner and I have been planning to do some gardening things, and we took some time off of work to really do some things around the house. And during this time that we set aside, my partner Tanya had like a neck thing that happened. Like, just, I don't think it wasn't really her fault or anything. It was just like she had a pain in the neck, and actually, probably in hindsight, the pain in the neck was me, because I don't know, I was really excited about doing it. And when I get excited about stuff, it's hard for me to tone down my energy and my enthusiasm, and I'm learning how to have that kind of patience. But she was kind of immobilized for the day that we had set aside to do the work. And normally my Cancerian nurturing self would have been like, oh, that sucks, like, and she'll probably be like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, when you want something, I don't know how accommodating you're going to be. But I was having a lot of frustration and trouble because I had a plan. I wanted to do this work with her. I wanted to team up and partner with her to do it, because there were certain things that sometimes you just want to spend time with your partner doing domestic things. If you're a Cancer type person, that brings you a lot of joy. And there's just a time limit to some of these things. And I was kind of pouting and being a little bit passive aggressive about, and I was being less sympathetic than I normally would have been in the situation. And it caused a little bit of a problem because I wasn't giving the nurturing that was needed in that circumstance, and she wasn't receiving the nurturing that she needed in that circumstance. So to me, that was very much an example of Mars and Cancer first decan really being cut off from the type of mutual support that we need in certain situations. So that type of energy is still running around. And sorry, Tanya, if I'm laying out our dirty laundry on Instagram, but I take full responsibility for not being as compassionate as I could have been in that moment. And the world didn't end. We just had to be more patient, right? And we had to have a lot of conversations about it. I had to kind of backtrack off of my plan. It was funny. This is so Mars and Cancer. We literally bought a chainsaw recently to be able to deal with all the fallen limbs all over the property that we have here. We had a really nasty ice storm, and just basically whole chunks of trees have come down. And just as Mars is going into Cancer, like, Cancerian me is like, I want to learn to use a chainsaw, which I'm learning all the safety things about it. You don't have to worry about me. Hopefully, I'm trying to take my time and learn how to do it correctly, and not rushing into anything. But we got an argument because I couldn't go do my chainsawing. This is so Mars. Like, it's so Mars. But anyway, I think this is also, it speaks also to Saturn and Pisces too. or Saturn in Pisces also. Because sometimes the plans that we make, and if you know that I'll know that I have Virgo, 3 planets in Virgo on my chart. When we make plans, sometimes the universe has other ideas, and we have to be flexible. So we have to have communication with one another. We have to recognize that sometimes we may not be feeling as kind or as nice as we normally would. When Mars is in Cancer, it may be more difficult to find or give that compassion. Okay. And I think that it's one of those things where we just need to give each other grace and space, and allow for some adjustments to our plans. And I'm telling this to myself as much as anybody else out there. Carol says, Mortal says, still feel for her not getting to visit her family the time you wanted to clean the attic. What was that? Oh, I don't remember that, but maybe there was something that I'm not remembering about cleaning the attic. That's what the risk that I run here, talking about my personal life, is sometimes the audience will remember some of my feelings that I choose to black out. So sorry about that. Yeah, Ani says, if anything, the story with your partner will probably help if she hears it. Well, she's heard it. We lived it. So, and we've gotten to a better place in the last few weeks after that has gone down. You know what's funny? At this full moon, I got exactly what I deserved. I woke up this morning, literally, with the moon in Libra, right before a weekend where I want to do more work, with the pain in my neck in the same spot that she had this neck pain. So it's divine retribution on some level. So, I think that sometimes the Libra full moon says, oh, maybe you should get someone else's perspective for once. But I have this really nice grid ball that it's helping me roll it out and find some peace with that. But yes, it's a learning experience. And I am not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect partner. I am, not a perfect astrologer. I'm subject to the influences of these planets as much as anyone else is. And, Mars in Cancer is a really uncomfortable place for not only for Mars, but anybody who has Cancer, prominent Cancer placements. When Mars is hanging out there, you're not always at your best, right? You kind of want to, you can get more aggressive than you normally would be. I think people count on Cancerian folks for kindness and empathy and accommodation sometimes. When Mars is hanging out there, that can be in shorter supply. And I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that, it can be difficult for both the people around us and in our lives and us personally. Okay, so let's keep moving. So the Alhina, Mars on Alhina, circling back around again. We may have some purpose that we're willing to make sacrifices for, and that we're willing to stand up for, and we have to be careful of, any wounds that we might sustain on that journey. Okay, so it doesn't have to be anything super huge. It can be related to your home. If you have a project at your home, like me and Susanna have been talking about, you may have to have some difficult conversations about it. You may have to have some patience. You have to have some clear communications. And sometimes that's hard with Mars and Cancer. Is oftentimes we are a little bit, I guess the cliche with Mars and Cancer is passive aggressiveness. And that is true to a certain extent. It's just that I think that there's a circuitous motion to Cancer and to Cancerian energy. Directness is not really something that we would consider a Cancerian trait. And sometimes we are indirect because we want to maintain peace. I think that oftentimes, peace is disrupted by head-to-head conflict. The crab is a prey animal for the most part, and they're always aware of like danger in their environment. So confronting something head on can be very dangerous, and that can be a problem if you're in a situation that could be challenging. But oftentimes, the things that are left unsaid, the brooding that happens can be more counterproductive than helpful. Um, Oftentimes, as a Cancerian person myself and other people that have these placements, we feel so deeply that we expect other people to feel what we feel. Or it's hard for us to get out of our own subjective experience to be able to understand that not everyone has those same feelings, and that not everyone can read our mind based on just our emotional state. So the challenge, I would say, is that I think it is important to verbalize your desires and needs, and also respect the other people's needs and desires, and that they need to have verbalized, or trying to tune into as well. So I hope that that helps understand what we're dealing with Mars and Cancer hosting this particular arrangement of planets with the Jupiter Cazimi. Looking through the chat here, and as I'm telling this story, I'm sure like right now, I think we moved from the Jupiter hour to like the Mars hour. So we're talking about conflicts and all of those things. Ani says that's a fitting consequence with the neck pain. It is. It totally is. It's. I almost had to laugh at how fitting it was. I got exactly what I deserved. Raven is here. Hello, Raven. Nice to see you. Devin is pointing out that the Mercury shadow period starts tomorrow and ends May 31st. Okay, so that's something I sometimes I'll keep an eye on that. The idea with that, the shadow period, is that it is the degrees that Mercury will be retracing its steps through the retrograde motion. I pay less attention to shadow periods than I do the actual like moments of phasis, but I think that can be informative about what is the energy that we're going to be revisiting. I think that can give you some insights as well. Yes. Yeah, Jennifer has Mercury in Cancer. Gonna have to hold my tongue. Yeah, I'm with you there. So as Mars moves forward on its journey, it's going to activate different planets in your chart. Like, I have Cancer Sun at 15 degrees and Cancer Mercury at 22, similar to you, Jennifer. So when Mars is hitting the Sun, that might make you feel a little puffed up or something like that, where your ego might get activated. And then when it hits Mercury, you got to be careful about communicating lovingly. The crab side. Yeah, sideways. Yes. Okay. So back to the Cazimi. The other thing that's happening at the Cazimi in the chart, anecdotes aside, I'm really self-eviscerating in this one today. That's okay. My Leo rising ego will survive. Sometimes we have to be vulnerable and admit our faults and our fallacies. That's what makes us human. The other thing I'm seeing at this Cazimi is the newly ingressed motion of Venus into Gemini and immediately making a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. So this is another thing where the I Ching was really giving us some insight, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. But the I Ching is basically saying, get moving. You've prepared enough. It's go time. And I think that one of the challenges with Venus trine Pluto, or Venus in Gemini 1 in particular trining Pluto, is that we may be getting enamored with multiple options. The first decan of Gemini is associated with the Eight of Swords, where you see a figure that is bound and blindfolded. And there's a feeling of paralysis by analysis with Venus and Gemini 1, or just Gemini 1 in general. So I think we may be attracted to exploring other options potentially when Venus moves into Gemini. And we may feel very intense about it as well because of the trine to Pluto. Um, maybe we found that um, some things that we tried aren't working, and we experienced a defeat. The first decan of Aquarius is called, I believe that card is called the Lord of Defeat, where there was a conflict, and then you're going off into exile, intentional exile. You may be very attracted to doing something a very progressive way, potentially, with this Venus Pluto conjunction. But I think that the long and the short of it is that there is also a potential for distraction with Venus and Pluto trining at the Jupiter Cazimi. So the I Ching especially which we can't hide from. We can't hide from truth in the I Ching. It's such a wonderfully blunt oracle. It's basically like, you've done enough research. You know all of the different things. Just start, okay? I'm going through this right now. Like, I drive myself crazy making plans, wanting to learn more and educate myself more before actually taking an action. I'm doing that with the garden. I'm like, oh, maybe I need a master gardener to come and show me how to do this, or maybe I need to do more research. When what I really need to do is I need to stick the damn shovel in the ground and start digging and, like, turning the soil over or whatever it is, and start putting some stuff in there. Just do something, right? And I think that that's what the Jupiter Cazimi is going to be helping us with, is just getting moving. Okay. So let's do this. So we've broken down the host. We also are seeing that the moon is going to be opposing Mars at the Jupiter Cazimi. Something to keep in mind, okay, is that there's probably going to be tension on this day as well. There could be cause for a celebration, but there also may be some difficult emotional times because of Mars's energy in Cancer and the moon opposing it from the first decan of Capricorn. To me, that this speaks to a feeling of indecisiveness around this period of time, where we're constantly weighing the advantages and disadvantages of what we're going to be doing. That's the first decan of Capricorn. And again, sometimes we just have to make a choice, and just making the choice can get you out of a feeling of being stuck. Maybe it's quote unquote the wrong choice, but I don't really think that there are wrong choices. I think even if you make a choice that leads to unsuccessful outcomes, that will give you the information that you need to make adjustments, like the Mercury retrograde and the Jupiter retrograde, to be able to create successful outcomes afterwards. So it's all a learning experience. If you're trying something new for the first time, you're not always going to get it right, and you're going to have to make adjustments. And that doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that that's part of, manifesting a dream into physical reality. Okay. So that's mostly what I'm seeing in just the chart of the moment. So what I would like to do is I'm going to take this through the houses, and I'm going to start. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, if I can get my ability to move this again. I'm going to start with Aries, just because Aries, first sign. There we go. Thank you, Michelle, for the super sticker. Appreciate you. Yeah, and I'll take this opportunity, if you want to contribute to the work I'm doing, you can buy me a super sticker or super chat, or if you're listening after the fact, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. Another way you can support the work that I'm doing is to purchase the replays of my webinars, either the Decans webinars or the Stars and Cards webinar that talks about astrology and the tarot, or sign up for one of my classes. I'm really excited about the group and the book that we're doing as a group coming up on April the 17th. So if we're looking at Aries rising, all right, so this is the portion of the show where we're going to take this Cazimi through the houses and connect it. So I'll do that for a little bit. So the Cazimi is in your first house if you're Aries rising. And this is a time where you may be trying to make a new start with either your body, a new persona that you're putting on, a new part of your own character. You're going to see that it's going to be making a beneficial trine to both your ninth house and the moon in the ninth house of your personal belief systems, maybe higher education, long distance journeys that you might be taking to find meaning in your life. But it's also making an overcoming trine to the Leo part of your chart in the fifth house, where you are maybe exploring new parts of your creativity. Maybe there is your newfound attention to your body and to your health and to your own, vision potentially makes you more attractive to other people as well. This is where that sex appeal might come in, right? Could lead to more enjoyable experiences. Oftentimes when we know what we want, that makes us more attractive to other people. And it can help us pursue what will bring us happiness and pleasure. Thank you, Beth. I appreciate that. Beth, for the super sticker there. So some of the challenges that the Aries rising might be experiencing is you might be having some conflicts in your home, potentially. Some of the source of charisma that you need to, or the source of conflict that you need charisma and humor to overcome may be coming from your family or your residence or your domestic space. And you have to maybe win over the hostile crowd with your parents, maybe with your family. Maybe there's just some projects that are happening or some challenges. Maybe there's some separations that have happened recently in your fourth house. That's what Mars does too. It cuts us off from nurturing situations. So maybe through not having the type of support that you would normally expect, you are having to rely on your own individuality and your own resources once again. And it may be scary. It's scary to start something new, isn't it? Okay, so that's Aries rising. Let's move forward. Beth says, gardens take time. You don't need a master gardener. You're right. Just start shoveling. Dirt is forgiving and loving. Yes. Gardens are also a new journey each season. Yeah. Yeah, because the conditions are always changing, aren't they? That's good advice, Beth. And something I need to hear, because I tend to want to know how things are going to turn out before I do them. And that's just not always the way it goes. So you have to be flexible and just get started. Yeah. And Jennifer says this weekend will be great weather to get out in the garden. Yes, into Gaia. I agree. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so here is Taurus rising. Now, with Taurus rising, the Cazimi is in the 12th house, and we're connecting it. Now, I want to say, if just for you Aries rising folks, you may feel a new start with your belief systems. You might feel a new start also connected with wanting to retreat into solitude, because the Jupiter is ruling your 12th and your 9th house in an Aries rising chart. But remember, it's probably going to be more beneficial for your 9th house. So now with the Cazimi happening in the 12th house of a Taurus rising chart, we have the Cazimi itself making a positive trine, an overcoming trine to the Leo house of the 4th house, and also your 8th house. It is providing resources for your 11th, albeit in inversion, and the 8th. You may be having some conflict, okay, from the 3rd house. So let's just break this down here. With Taurus rising, you are probably wanting to retreat. You're probably feeling exhausted from trying to figure out how to become an individual. Maybe there has been separation in your daily habits, your daily routines, a conflict maybe with siblings or with your extended family. Maybe with just your everyday life, it's become an uphill battle, or it's been a stream, swimming upstream, like as Devin was pointing out, against the current. And it may just be time to take a rest. It may be a time to just celebrate yourself in solitude. And that can probably give you a respite from some of the challenges that you have with others, 8th house kind of things, where you may be sharing resources with others. And but also helping to cool things down a little bit with your family and in your own personal home. I think sometimes when we have conflicts in our domestic sphere, which are the places we look for rest and for support, that can be really unsettling and really disorientating. And sometimes we, how do I put this? We don't always have to engage in a fight, I think. What I'm learning through this Mars and Cancer period is that just because I want something to happen exactly when I want it to happen does not mean that it's going to happen right away, or that everyone else has the same level of enthusiasm as I do about the thing that I'm feeling intense about. Instead of trying to bludgeon someone over the head with an emotional hammer, a metaphorical emotional hammer, sometimes retreating and just being patient will allow the conflict to unravel itself. And sometimes you don't have to do anything to make it work. And that's a really tough lesson to learn. Is sometimes just retreating and withdrawing can be the best action of all. So I think Taurus risings, give yourself permission to take a time out next week and celebrate you in peace and in solitude. Okay, let's move forward. Let's look at Gemini rising. Now, Gemini risings, let's do our circle here. We've got the 11th house, Cazimi. We are providing resources for the 7th and the 10th. Okay, but easier to provide for the 7th. We have Mars creating tension in our 2nd house, resources, but we have supportive trines to our 3rd house and to our 7th house. Okay. Excuse me. So a new start for you Gemini risings in a potential group or organization that you have a shared sense of values with. This could also be a new start in receiving benefits from maybe a government institution or something of that nature. That's an association with 11th house as the derived 2nd house from the 10th, or the king or the government. Remember that when I'm talking about all this, this new start that you're making, you may have to utilize your social graces to win over somebody in this area of your life to your perspective, potentially. Okay. So maybe by joining a new group, this will help create healthy routines for you with the overcoming trine to the 3rd house. It may smooth over some challenges that you've been having with your partner, potentially Gemini rising. You may be drawing upon some conflict and some challenges from your 2nd house of resources. You may be separated from some things that brought you security as Mars moves through your 2nd house. But good news for Gemini risings is that Venus will have just ingressed into your 1st house. So that is a positive thing for the Gemini risings. And Gemini risings are probably going through some tough times right now too, because Saturn just moved into their 10th house. So there's probably a lot of endings, changes, responsibilities that they have in their public life that are putting pressure on their sense of self, on where they live, and their partnerships. So whenever Saturn's in that square position, it can be a little bit of a rough go. So rely on your friends. This could be a new start to be able to ignite the passion of friendship once again. And for Gemini rising, that's like lifeblood, I think. Ani says, that's a tough lesson, doing nothing while the problem unravels. But I can take this advice for Taurus rising. Spot on. Thanks, Spencer. Okay, good, Ani. Yeah. And as a Taurus rising, patience is really a virtue. One of the things I've learned having a Taurus moon, Ani, is that Taurus is the type of energy where you do just as much as is necessary for that time. Like, if you think about it as cultivating a garden, there's only so much you can do in one day to support the growth of your plant. You can water it, you can give it the right conditions, you can check it for pests, but at the end of the day, nature has to take its course, and that's where the patience comes in. And sometimes this is what I love about gardening, that where you have like a perennial garden. Uh, Sometimes they just grow without you doing anything. Like, I just went outside today and I was like, oh, hell yeah, there's little bee balm babies. I didn't do anything to make that grow. I planted it last year. I did exactly what I needed to do last year. And now it's nature's taken over. And man, that is so cool to see that renewal. And it's through just stepping back and observing and appreciating and just, experiencing wonder at it all. Okay. So back to our Gemini rising. So hang in there with your finances. Hang in there with your finding your sense of purpose out in the world. Lean on your friends at this period of time. Try not to get into arguments about money with them or your worth to them. And Venus is going to help. I'll just give a plug to a friend that I like supporting. Sphere and Sundry just released a Mercury and Gemini series that looks really cool and has some good things in it for smoothing over tension in friendships and relationships. There's like a frog series or something that I'm excited about. So check that out if you have some Gemini energy and you want to, regain a sense of wonder and a sense of, novelty. Like, this is something that we lose sometimes if we're just grinding away at things, is our sense of wonder and joy at exploring. And I love supporting other magical practitioners. I mean, Tanya does some great stuff with Third Coast Mojo, so support her if you can. But Caitlin does some awesome stuff. Caitlin Kopic at Sphere and Sundry as well. I'm just so excited that there's all these opportunities to engage with magically elected oils in our modern society. I often joke that I'm just like walking like oil balm sometimes, because I'll put on all sorts of different oils in the morning. Today, what am I wearing today? I can't remember. I'm wearing a little bit of Sphere and Sundry's Antares oil. I'm wearing Caitlin's Jupiter and Sagittarius oil for Jupiter Day. I'm wearing some of Tanya's Third Coast Mojo Venus in Libra oil, because the moon is in near Spica in Libra today. And that's a good assortment. That gets you where you need to go. Actia says, Gemini rising here. This is so interesting. I've been renting my home to a friend, and they contacted me today asking to break their lease a month early and move out next week. Okay. So maybe a new start with that friend is putting pressure on your finances. That I love it when you are able to share your stories and connect it with your chart when we're talking here. So I encourage, thank you, Actia, for sharing that story. That helps us to ground these metaphorically inspired readings into real life, which I think is really why else we would do this, right? It's just giving us guidance. Okay. Illis J says, that's called a volunteer plant when they self-seed and just pop up like that. Hell yeah. All the volunteers are going to be coming up this year. I'm excited about it. Okay. So that's Gemini rising. Let's move forward to Cancer rising. Ooh, Cancer rising. Cancer risings right now. They've been getting it, huh? So here's Cancer rising. Couple things. This is going to be a big one for all the cardinal rising signs. The Jupiter Cazimi is going to be felt more personally because it is in an angular house. Okay. Not everybody's going to feel every aspect exactly the same. And of course, your mileage may vary whether one of these planets is your time lord or not. If Jupiter is your time lord or the sun's your time lord, you'll feel this more. I'm in a Saturn year right now, so I'm just riding the, I don't know, the Saturnian wave in Pisces. But if you are a Cancer rising, First of all, this Cazimi will be happening in your 10th house of career, of public life, of the way of praxis, of the way that you put yourself out into the world, the way that you express yourself publicly. So there could be something that you're trying to do in your work or in your job where you are, trying to gain a following, right? Where you're trying to get somebody on board with a project that you're doing at work or something of that nature. This could be something. Let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to get back to the. There we go. You may have to win over a boss or something like that. It could be related to, what you all believe in the corporate structure or wherever you do publicly. It doesn't have to be corporate. It could be connected to your beliefs. It could also be connected to your health, right? So here we have the 10th house. It's happening. It's providing resources for the 9th, but it's an aversion to the 9th. But it is making an overcoming trine to the 6th house. I'm sorry, so to the 2nd house, and a trine to the 6th house. So whatever's going on for you Cancer risings, you've probably been getting hit hard with Mars in the 1st house, which is related to your body. You may be feeling more aggressive than normal. You may not be the nurturing mother archetype that you normally are. You may not be the shoulder to cry on that people come to expect from you. And that's okay. Everybody has the right to express martial energy at various times. Or you just might be feeling some challenges with your own body right now. Mars in the 1st could lead to like extra inflammation or injuries. Just be careful with that. Be careful of pushing yourself too hard. That's a challenge. But this Cazimi could really be good financially. It's in an overcoming trine to your 2nd house. You may have to take on more responsibility with the job that's coming potentially, or the work, and because of the trine to the 6th house. But I think it's going to ultimately lead to something good. Oftentimes with Mars in the 1st, we can feel the inner conflicts, right? We feel the conflicts within ourselves. It's not that we're having a fight with someone else. It's like that we're wrestling ourselves. I can imagine as a Cancer rising that the new responsibility that you have publicly, or the new project that you're working on, is probably taxing your energy and is probably making you pretty tired. I think that it's probably making you a little cranky on some level, or it has the potential to. And it's not normally in our Cancerian nature to fight for what we want, I guess. At least not publicly. Like, tenacity is another thing. Cancers can be very, very, very tenacious when they want something, but they have a way of getting what they want that is not always direct. The other thing I will say about Cancer rising and sun and placements is oftentimes many of us feel very averse to the competition that needs to take place to be successful publicly. Like, I'm thinking about just my own experience of just really feeling a strong distaste at when I see people stepping on each other to get where they want to be, abusing one another to climb some kind of social ladder or anything of that nature. Now, one could argue that that's part of the capitalism scheme, and I'm hesitant to say, well, I don't want to compete in capitalism. I don't, but at the same time, there is a difference between the challenges that capitalism will present to you, which are flawed, and the system itself is flawed. But there's a difference between that and just putting yourself out there to be able to advocate for yourself and your own needs. And I think sometimes Cancers have guilt around that. And I think that this Jupiter Cazimi for you, Cancer rising, says that, you know what, it's okay for you to put yourself out there a little bit, to stick your neck out of your crab shell a little bit and be like, maybe toot your own horn a little bit. Okay, I know that you are always concerned with taking care of others, but it's okay to take care of your own needs here. It can probably lead to moving forward in your public life, which is probably needed sometimes. I think oftentimes cancers retreat back into their domestic situation, and we need to have a healthy balance between, you know, connecting with our professional and public selves and our domestic selves. If you ignore one or the other, then we get into places of disconnect, discord, and imbalance. Okay, so that is Cancer rising. Now we are going to Leo rising. Oh boy. So here's Leo rising. And I'll just be telling you a little bit about my own story here, but I'll speak to all you Leo risings here. I'm a Leo rising. If you couldn't tell, if I haven't told you a million times. Like, I don't know. I can only be what I am. So we have, hold on, let me be consistent with my circles and my squares. So with Leo rising, we have this happening in our ninth house. And we have Mars in our 12th. Okay. And we have a trine, an overcoming trine to the first, and a trine to the fifth. So, with Leo rising, first of all, this is pretty interesting for Leo risings because the sun is the ruler of your ascendant. This is kind of the helm of your chart. It's steering wheel for your life is the sun. So coming together with Jupiter is very fortuitous and fortunate for you Leo risings out there. Whatever new start philosophically that you're considering, like, a journey that you may be considering to find meaning in your life. Maybe you're planning a trip or a vacation or something like that. Maybe there's just a new perspective that you're trying to share with others, a philosophical thing. Maybe there's a teaching thing that you're doing. Maybe there's a group class that you have that's going to start literally a week after this Jupiter Cazimi, where you're trying to sell that idea and that philosophy to get people on board. Sign up for the class. Guided group study spring 2023. And I think that this could just be a very fortunate time with that. The new philosophical outlook that you have on life could be helping you have a sense of self and a sense of purpose. You could be taking some actions that are really benefiting your body at this point. I know personally, I've completely and even in just the last week, I've really committed to eating clean or cleaner, and I feel a lot better. My diet had sort of gotten off track. I think sometimes we get on and off track with our self-care. And for me, my diet had sort of taken a left turn, which happens. It happens in the winter a lot too, especially if you live in a climate where there's not a lot of sun in the winter. You can get depressed, and sometimes food can be a balm. It's not a permanent one because there's always consequences to it, but maybe the actions that you're taking are helping to support your body and your sense of self. It will also help with your creativity, feeling something where this Jupiter Cazimi is helping, particularly you feel a new burst of creative energy because it is Jupiter is ruling your fifth house of Sagittarius. Again, I'm doing a bunch of gardening, so like I maybe through my gardening work, I'm feeling that new burst of creativity, and it helps me be healthier and want to connect with the earth. Now with Mars hosting this from the 12th, we just have to be careful that we aren't, as Leo risings, self-sabotaging, that we aren't letting our anger separate us from our sense of peace and solitude. One thing that I've noticed as a Leo rising when Mars has moved into Cancer, Mars can show us where we may have some anger or some irritation from things that we don't have, or things of that nature, things that we're separated from. I would say that lately I've been appreciating the gardening, but I've also been kind of like irritated that I don't have a really super private woods in my backyard. Like, because I'm finding it difficult in the location that I live in to get privacy, to get real solitude. We live in a house that has another resident living in part of the house, and we live on a block that is just surrounded by people all the time, and the intersection is very busy, and I'm feeling a little angst about not getting my own private solitude sanctuary. So that might be part of the where Mars is expressing itself in your 12th house. So one of the things that I think is important when Mars is in a hidden house like the 12th, it's important to really recognize where the inner conflict is coming from and to acknowledge it, maybe to try to express it in a healthier way. I've been having thoughts about having more clearer conversations about how the space is utilized by everyone who lives here so that we all can get our needs met, right? And if you don't actually talk about it and express it, it is harder to get what you want, or everybody to get what they want. So that's something to think about with Mars, providing resources from the 12th. Okay, so that's Leo rising. How is everybody doing? We're working our way through the signs here. I hope that you're enjoying this movement through the signs. I'm gonna stretch a little bit. My shoulders, oh my goodness, my stiff neck that I manifested through being a jerk. Maybe that's part of Mars in my 12th house. If you separate from your own compassion, you will end up in a similar circumstance where you might need help in the future, and then the person's like, instead of like, oh, sorry, they'll just laugh at you like, haha, you got what you deserve. That's not what my partner did. She's too sweet to do that, but I'm sure in the back of her mind she's like, haha, you got what was coming to you. Walk a mile in my shoes, buddy. So, oh my goodness. Okay. Oh yeah, Steven says road trips are a battle to stay on routine too, eating fast food and snacks from gas station stops. Yeah, I hear you, Steven. I haven't done a whole lot of traveling in the last few years, and part of it is exactly what you say. Is it's as a creature of habit, it is harder to maintain your healthy routines when you're on the road. Although it's all a balance too. What I'm truly feeling lately with this Jupiter Cazimi is I would love to go on a trip and just maybe shake up my energy a little bit. Maybe go visit the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, visit Lake Superior or something. Just get out of my own space. Uh, it's not that I don't love my home, but when you spend pretty much every day within a 5-block radius of your house for 3.5 years, it'd be nice to just see something else to shake yourself out of your own habits and routines. So that's another thing, Leo rising, that you might be able to do is plan a trip that might be just a nice little oasis, a temporary oasis. Okay. So let's move forward to Virgo rising. Okay, so if you're a Virgo rising, you are experiencing the Cazimi in the 8th house. And it is providing resources for your 7th, albeit it is not witnessing the 7th. So some challenges maybe with partnerships. It is witnessing the 4th house. And we have Mars providing some of the challenges from the 11th house. So let's connect the dots here. So we have an overcoming trine to your 12th. We have another trine and Jupiter providing resources for your 4th. And we have some conflict arising from the 11th house. So first of all, 8th house represents resources that we share with other people. It represents maybe some things that we've repressed, some fears that we're working through, some challenges. It can be related to inheritances or legacies or things that happen after completion or after death, as it is the succedent house related to the seventh, which is the setting sun house, basically the Western setting sun. So by dealing with and maybe trying to find a new start in how we share resources with others, that can lead us to a sense of peace that can help enhance our solitude with the trine to the Leo 12th house. It can also be a really new start in our home and our family. Maybe there's an agreement that you're trying to make with your partner about something that has to do with your home in particular, or your family or your parents. Maybe this is a new agreement about, if you have older parents, how to take care of them or something of that nature. You may also be working through some challenges with the groups that you're a part of, the people that you share a sense of purpose with. You may be cut off from some of your friendships and your groups due to some of the challenges of the eighth house. You also might be experiencing some, this could be like taxes and stuff like that too. Like if you have Mars in the 11th house, that's money from the government. So one of the things I've been seeing, because they have ended some of the laws around extra benefits from the pandemic, they've ended the emergency pandemic crisis in America as of April 1st. Many people who are suffering are being cut off from or reevaluated for their Medicaid. And a lot of people are falling through the cracks with health insurance. So this could be something like, I'm sure that there might be some Virgo risings out there that are trying to really figure out what their benefits might be potentially with like Medicaid or something like that as well. That's just one thought that came into my mind as an example of how that could be playing out potentially. And what I would encourage you to do if you are going through something like this, just if you have the ability, just make sure you try to follow up with it, fill out all the forms that you can. It might take some extra effort, but it'll be worth it in the end, so that you'll be protected if you have an injury or an illness or something of that nature, because the health system in America is really messed up. I think we can all agree on that. And it is very... it's exploitive, and it's very difficult for people to get what they need sometimes. And you don't want to be left out to dry if you have an expensive procedure or anything like that. So you want to make sure you're protected by having the best insurance that you can afford or that you are applying for. Okay, let's see. So yeah, Virgo, this is Virgo rising. And for Virgo rising, you'll have Venus hitting your midheaven too, or your 10th house. So there could be some really nice things happening in your job too. And that should be good news for Virgo risings, is that, there may be some harmony in some disparate elements of your job that you've been trying to bring together for quite some time, and finally finding some new solutions that can help bring harmony to your workplace. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to just check in with the chat here. Yeah, Don says, everybody needs a little time away. A holiday from each other. Yeah, that old Chicago song. After all that we've been through, I will make it up to you. I promise you. Yeah, so this my my super unwarmed up, half-assed Peter Cetera. Like, I think that I need to like sing that to my partner after our week together. Like, it's funny. So yes, sometimes. Oh, Don, that reminds me. That is a really good point that you're making. One of the things that I can't remember if it's Austin or Susie Chang, but in one of those books, they talk about absence makes the heart grow fonder. And sometimes when we are separated from the things that we love, or when we're separated from the harmony in our relationships, it helps us to appreciate it more. And that can inflame our passions. Remember, the Decan is associated with the spirit Eros, and Eros can attract or repel. And sometimes when we have repelled something through our actions or through our negligence or through just life, sometimes it just happens. Um, we can start to appreciate those people in our life, and that can really ignite passions once again. So yeah, sometimes we need to take a break, and that's okay. Okay. Michelle says, unfortunately, my Virgo stellium won't let me eat crap without paying dearly with stomach problems. Oh yes, I'm with you, Michelle. I have a Virgo stellium, and I really suffer from eating junk food. I have a history of diabetes in my family. I don't have diabetes, but I think it'd be my grandfather had type 2 because he ate a bunch of sugar stuff all the time, and he died of pancreatic cancer. So I have to really watch my sugar intake, and I'm very gluten sensitive too. Or what I'm learning more is it may not even just be the gluten, it may be glyphosate, which is a Roundup product that we see in a lot of modern wheat products, which is really unfortunate. But there's ways around all this. But yes, Michelle, clean eating can be really helpful for your mood and for how you feel going through the day, and sleep. Just get enough sleep, friends. If you're not getting enough sleep, that can make everything feel a lot worse than it actually is. AA's Creations says, I believe that's Arcana. Is that Arcana? I'm trying to remember your name, A. I can relate to that. Hoping to go to the beach. Hopefully the weather will be a little less rainy, but need to be near the ocean, and stepping away from the family for a little while to be good too. Yeah, totally. I just, for anyone who has water sign placements, being near water can be so healing. I know that not everyone has access to the ocean or to a lake or even to a river, but it's worth your time if you need to drive a little bit further to connect with some kind of water element in your life. And I honestly think that water can really help heal this Mars energy right now too. It can just help us relax a little bit. I just felt so refreshed after going to, it was just a creek, at the Matai Botanical Gardens is part of the Fleming Creek watershed, and it was really flowing with like snow melt, and it was just nice to see the movement and connect with that, and it felt really peaceful. Oh, looking through the chat, B is here. B says, thank you for discussing this, Spencer. My snap ended. Virgo rising. B. Okay, good. All right, we're getting you out of the challenge, right? Oh, sorry. So okay, your SNAP is that's a food benefit, right? Yes, exactly. So SNAP is a program that helps to feed people that are having some food insecurity. And because of the pandemic, emergency ending, the extra food money that they had was like an extra $80 or $90 a month or something like that, which is not insignificant for people that have food insecurity, ended with that program. So yeah, I'm sorry, B, that's you're going through that. That must be very challenging. And I hope that we can, I don't know, if I'm going to do some advocacy, maybe try to put some pressure on your lawmakers to extend those benefits or something, because really, at the end of the day, that really helped people to have enough to eat. Those just that little extra benefit really could really keep people from starving in some circumstances. So I think it's always, to me, I'm someone who I think leaning on the generosity and helping others and helping people in our community, I think is really important. And I don't want to get down a rabbit hole with this, but there's still COVID out there too. So just be careful with all of that, and be careful with your health. I think that people are reintegrating into society, but still, it's important to make wise choices about how you do that. Because I know that we need each other. We need to see each other, and but again, just try to protect yourself, because there is still challenges out there. Okay. B says, I was trying to get a diagnosis of autism to apply for disability. I'm on a 3-year wait list and they won't allow me to pay out of pocket. Yeah, boy. So yeah, that's a Virgo rising story. And that really does speak to what I was talking about with this, with Mars in the 11th house as benefits from the government, right? Of having a real challenge, getting the support and the nurturing that you need from a a political entity of some sort. So I'm sorry, B, and I hope that that works out for you, and keep us in the loop. Luckily, my astrology practice is finally moving. Good, good. Nanda Devi is here. Hello, friend. Says the economics of the U.S. is messed up. The U.S. health system, and yeah, the health. Yes, I have a lot of European and international friends that are part of this show, and many of them are very, very surprised at the hoops that we have to jump through just for basic needs and medical care in this country. And it's very, I'm with you, Nanda Devi. It's very frustrating. I've had my share of challenges with the healthcare system, and it's tough because really that should be just a basic need that we have for people and a basic thing that we can provide for people. So call your senators, vote, advocate for it. It's not going to change unless more people speak up. This might be part of this too. Like, remember, we have the Mars on Alhina, speaking up for what you need and being able to march for what you need, right? Like the proudly marching one. It's not going to be without challenge, but sometimes it's worth speaking up for the little person, I guess, or the people that are in need. Don says, and this is why I dig you, Spencer. Love it. Okay, Don, I dig you too, and I'm glad that you're here today. I don't know. I try to be fair on this channel. I know that not everyone's going to agree with my beliefs or even my quote unquote political stance or whatever it is, but I find it harder to argue with falling on the side of kindness and of helping other people. I think that when it comes to how I look at the world, is I think that the more we can help each other, the more that we can, balance out our need to feel empowered as individuals with our need to feel empowered as communities, and giving and receiving and balancing those things. It's really hard to argue with that and have it be a rational argument, right? I think just treat others with respect. Treat others the way you want to be treated. I think that the other thing I'll say is kind of stay in your own lane. Like, if there's something that just doesn't affect you at all, why do you have to get so mad about it, right? If it's something that isn't really even your problem, okay? Like, and I'm speaking towards people who want to take rights away from other people, not people who want to give rights to people, because I do think advocating for other people's rights is important. But when we try to take rights away from people that have no bearing on your individual experience, I think it's evil, and I think it's really toxic. So, but back to the Jupiter Cazimi. We're working through Virgo. Dawn says, I love my people, but I also love my me time. Yeah, me too. Michelle's gluten-free. All right. Yeah, I don't have a gluten allergy. I do eat gluten sometimes, but I kind of suffer for it. I have to make a choice in the moment of, like, am I going to feel bloated and sick and tired, or am I going to enjoy this pizza? Like, and recently I've been like, oh man, pizza sounds good. But there's consequences for those actions if you're sensitive to these things. Yeah, Steven's got water placements and loves living near water. Raven says, I have a good amount of water energy and spend lots of time at the lake in the warm months and taking baths in the cold months. Good. Yeah, that's another way to connect with water, is like Epsom salt baths or sea salt baths. If you can't get near an outdoor body of water, just taking a shower or a bath can really make positive changes in your energetic environment. I've been finishing my showers cold to kind of jumpstart my nervous system, and you get used to it. It's not the most fun thing, but you feel really good afterwards. So highly recommend that. Oh no, Lisa's getting over COVID now. Sorry, Lisa. That sucks. That is tough. I've had a lot of people in my community that are still getting COVID. So just be vigilant, friends. You know, I wouldn't, um, I guess don't take it for granted that it's still out there. And if you want to know more information about that without me going down that rabbit hole, there is an Instagram account that I follow. It's called the People's CDC, and it's basically a team of epidemiologists that are providing kind of updates through wastewater evaluations to see what community spread might be like for COVID. Because in America in particular, everybody's just kind of moved on. The government's moved on to grease the wheels of capitalism, sending everyone back to work and back into environments where they're still experiencing these challenges. So if you actually want some of the updates on what might be going on outside of what the powers that be are telling you, the People's CDC on Instagram is a good resource. But that is one thing. Get well soon, Lisa. Take good care of yourself. A says it makes sense. I've always lived near a canal. Okay, not the cleanest water, but still, yeah. I mean, it's good to just see wildlife. We've been disconnected from so much nature. I've been reading these articles about like we just are the way we've set up society in the last few decades. It just disconnects us. It puts up barriers from connecting with nature. Even in my own space here, the noise of the intersection at the stoplight is just constant. And that takes me away from the connection, from connecting with nature. And just spending some time in that quiet space at the botanical gardens was just really healing and healthy. And again, you got to get it where you can, right? And you have to seek it out if it's not in your backyard. Not all of us are so fortunate to even have a backyard sometimes. So find it where you can get it, and try to just make a date, schedule it in, even if it's once a week. Just go a natural space if you can get there, and it doesn't have to be some expensive vacation. Just walking out in the woods or near a creek or a lake, or if you're fortunate to be enough to be by the ocean, wow, what a powerful place to be. Okay, so Don's confirming gluten allergy. We got Devin says fried chicken is my gluten downfall. Oh man, Devin. I've been able to keep it at bay for a while now, though. Devin, well, you all know that we have some Taurus placements here on the show. There is a fried chicken place in Ypsilanti called Malu's Fried Chicken, and it's sort of a highbrow fried chicken place. It is so good, and it is. I mean, they do use ethically sourced chickens, which I appreciate, but it is still, fried. It is still covered in gluten. But man, it is so good. It is a weakness, and I do definitely suffer for up to 2 days after eating that. That's why I don't make it a habit. But I hear you with that. We all have little vices, and when it comes to eating, I think that having a cheat day every once in a while isn't the worst thing in the world, as long as you know what you're getting yourself into. I mean, there's a difference between us having a minor allergy and having a serious disease like celiac disease, where you could actually die from eating it. And I think that you have to know where you're at, know your own body, and know what you can and cannot do. Lisa says, I actually came down with COVID following a cold shower. It's probably a coincidence, but now I'm afraid to take another cold shower. Yes, Lisa, you're not going to get COVID from having a cold shower. You've got COVID from someone who gave you COVID, okay? And I don't know if a cold shower is going to, unless you touch something in the shower that someone else touched. I think that, yeah, it's not from the cold shower. Don't you make people afraid of cold showers on my show, Lisa. I am sorry that you're feeling sick though, and it is definitely suffering I still have not gotten COVID yet, but I've witnessed people in my life that have. And again, I've been very extreme about my safety precautions around it, and I'm basically living like a hermit still. And I know not everybody has the luxury to live like that. So I guess just do the best you can to keep yourself as healthy as you can. Jennifer says, have a grand trine in water. Had to get rid of the pool 2 years ago and miss it so bad. Yeah, that sucks. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Dawn says there are some other nasty viruses out there too. We had metapneumovirus, and we are sick for 3 weeks, coughing, aching, fever, and had to go to school and work because it's just a virus. Shaking my head. Yeah, Dawn. Yeah, norovirus is out there. I don't want to make this channel one that's a fear-mongering place. Like I try to have a balanced perspective, but the reality is that there is some stuff going around, and because of the growing population and things like climate change and deforestation, it is easier for these types of diseases to get transferred either from animal populations to humans or things of that nature. We are in the air age as well, with Jupiter and Saturn coming together in air signs for the next couple hundred years. And really, honestly, if you look back in history of air ages, we had things like the Great Bubonic Plague. Airborne diseases were more common during those periods of time. And that's just part of the reality that we have to live with. Now, does that mean we can't live our lives? Not necessarily, but we have to be innovative in how we do that. Maybe, wearing your mask if you're in a really crowded indoor space. Maybe advocating for people to upgrade their indoor air quality through new HVAC systems and things of that nature. That's to me is where I'm falling on all this, is that we're going to have to deal with this. So let's make things the healthiest we possibly can through making the changes that are required of us, so that we don't have this mass debilitating event with like things like long COVID and getting sick and destroying our immune systems through these things. Okay, moving along. Let's move on to Libra rising. Okay. So yeah, and I know that we're diving into controversial topical waters, but we're all trying to do the best we can and survive, and we're all doing the best we can with the information that we have. And I think that's one thing that can give you grace for people in your life, is I think everyone's trying to do the best they can with the information that they have. And to be honest with you, getting high quality information takes some effort. It doesn't mean that we should distrust every source of information. I don't like going to that extreme. I think that that's a very toxic perspective to have on the world, is never trusting any information. But I do think that we are getting into a space where we have to vet sources. We have to be able to use our own intuition on some level. And I'm not talking about like I'm not talking about like Aaron Rodgers level of like, for those of you who know Aaron Rodgers' story, he got in a lot of trouble for saying that he was immunized versus vaccinated, and had all these wild theories about all of that. But again, I know that's a triggering topic for a lot of folks. But anyway, let's move forward. Try to think critically, but also don't get so paranoid about your sources that you never trust anybody or anything, because some of those things are in place to keep you safe. Okay, Libra rising. Libra rising is interesting because we have another angular house. Okay, we have the 6th house being provided resources by Jupiter, but it is in aversion. We have the 3rd house activated by a trine. We have Mars in the 10th, oh boy, squaring our ascendant with Libra rising. We are in the overcoming trine to the 11th, and a trine with Jupiter providing trined resources to the 3rd. So this could be a new start in your relationship, Libra rising. I know that's hopefully that's good news for you, because I know that relationships are important to Libra risings. So you might have to utilize your social skills, utilize your charisma, utilize your ability to talk it out, but also advocate for your own needs. Oftentimes, people with strong Libra placements will bend over backwards for the people in their life, much like Cancerian placements, honestly. And I think that a healthy relationship is one where both people's needs are being taken into account. So you may have to really like get someone else excited about your vision, or you could have your partner that's trying to get you excited about their vision. That could be the other way that could manifest on some level. The conversations that you're having with your partner could have a very positive beneficial effect on your friend group or your shared sense of purpose with people in your community. It could also really help change your daily habits and your routines. It could help you to find new ways of engaging in learning processes as well with the Jupiter trine to your 3rd house. Maybe you're starting a new study group, guided group studies, spring 2023. Sign up now. Starts April 17th. Maybe you're starting a new area of study that helps you feel connected to another group. You could be having some challenges in your public life and in your career. You may be having some challenges with a boss at work or with somebody who is maybe getting involved in your work, like meddling or something like that. Or you may be meddling in other people's work. So be careful of that. You may be leaving a job. You may be leaving a project and trying to figure out what that means for you next in your relationships. You will have Venus moving into your 9th, so exploring your options when it comes to how you, feel philosophically about the world, exploring and being flexible with your philosophy can really be helpful in that regard. Okay. Let's see. So let's move forward to Scorpio rising. Sorry for going quicker through a couple of these than others, but we got to keep the train rolling here. Train rolling. For you Scorpio risings, you Scorpio risings right now are having a time, I'm guessing, with Mars and Cancer. Probably not the most fun position for Mars, for your ascendant ruler to be in. Probably a lot of questions and or conflicts that are maybe philosophical battles on some level, maybe being cut off from a source of support. And this may cause you to have to win someone over either at your job. Maybe there's a new health protocol that you are enacting at this Jupiter Cazimi potentially. Jupiter is going to be providing resources for your 2nd house. So maybe this new job type of thing or this new experience could be bringing you more resources. It is going to be in an overcoming trine to your 10th house. So if you are able to take on the mantle of responsibility and work hard, you can probably stand to benefit at this Jupiter Cazimi. Try not to let your belief systems get in the way of the work that you need to do at this point. Try not to let conflicts about a philosophical difference get in the way of the good fortune that wants to come to you through new public opportunities that could bring you a new stream of support. Okay. But you may have to utilize some Venusian energy, right? Rather than just Mars. Mars isn't at its best right now. Sometimes with Scorpio rising, when Mars is in good shape, you can just move forward towards your chosen destination with your will, okay, through your tenacity. But with Mars in Cancer, there may be a circuitous path. You may have to do one step forward, two steps back type of thing to get where you need to be. And just, trying to be kind as much as you can be probably will help. Okay, so that is Scorpio rising. Also, Scorpio rising, you're going to have a lot of activity in your seventh house over the course of the summer with the Mercury retrograde, the Mercury Cazimi, Jupiter retrograde, Jupiter moving into the seventh house. So we're just priming the pump here for some really important partnership things where you're going to be working with others on creating abundance throughout the summer, but asking a lot of questions about how that is done. Okay, let's move on to Sagittarius rising. We're getting around the circle here. This is taking a while, but we're having lots of little stories, lots of little diversions. I'm gonna stretch for a minute, and then we'll get to Sag rising, which is this is interesting for Sag rising, because this is your ascendant ruler. But all of you risings out there, if you're enjoying the work that I'm doing, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the newsletter. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Turn the notification bell on. If you want to make a donation, you can hit that $sign and send me a super chat or a super sticker. If you would like to exchange money for time today, which is often how our society views exchanges, I wouldn't say no. But I'm enjoying all of your comments. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. Have a sale right now on the Decans of Aries, 20% off. And my guided group study class with the Flowering Wand by Sophie Strand starts in a little over a week. Sign up for that. I would love to see you there. I'd love to connect with you in that way as well. Okay. Sag rising. Let's make all of our little circles and squares. So Sag rising has the 5th house Cazimi, providing resources for the 1st, making an overcoming trine to the 9th. There is a challenge in the 8th house, and we are connecting to we are trying to get a new start in our 4th house, but we may be having some difficulty with that. Saturn's in your 4th house as well, so probably some endings in your family or some responsibilities that have come to you. Maybe you want to move or something of that nature. Sagittarius risings always want to move. They always want to, move around, I guess you could say. They want to do stuff. They get restless. So if you're a restless Sag rising, you probably have some things that are keeping you grounded a little bit right now. And that can be frustrating. Your responsibilities as could be as a parent, could be as a caretaker, could be just the place that you live, could be your home, are making you question some of your meanings and purposes. But this is a really great start for doing something creative, for finding some joy in life, for finding something that is entertaining, for being able to utilize your own creativity to help you improve your philosophical outlook in life with the trine to the Leo house. This can also be a really great start for committing to something that will improve your body, like an exercise routine, like taking up a new sport or a new physical activity could be something that you could do around this period of time. Just be very careful that you don't overdo it with Mars and in Cancer. Pace yourself, I guess, is what I will say. And then Venus is moving into your 7th house, so this could help smooth over some relationship challenges as well. I mean, it could also give you the roving eye, because Venus in Gemini tends to want to explore options. But maybe instead of like exploring other relationships, maybe if you're in a committed relationship, you could explore new, novel things to do together that would be fun. So I think it's important to stay hopeful when you have a Sag rising, because there's a lot of burdens that Sagittarius carries that we don't really see expressed in many of the modern astrology descriptions of the sign. It is the last sign before the winter solstice, and there's just a lot of like trying to get to the finish line energy with Sagittarius. And you really do need to believe in yourself and believe in the mission, not just yourself, but believe in what you're doing to really get to the goal. And sometimes that inspiration can flag. And this is good news, though, is that you're getting a rebirth of your inspiration, and that should help move you forward. Okay, I'm looking into the chat here. Cassius says, has someone already asked about Jupiter Cazimi's in the birth chart? No, I don't think someone has. That's interesting. I mean, that's a really powerful position for Jupiter, I guess, if it's in your birth chart. It bodes well for, depending on where it is, it bodes well for both the Piscean and the Sagittarius area of your chart. It just, think about the relationship with the sun as being part of a relationship to a king or a queen, right? Where in ancient times, you couldn't really get too close to a royal figure, or you might incur their wrath. But if you, let's say you got within a certain distance, let's modernize this. Let's say we have a famous person, and they are in a public space, and they've got a bunch of security around them. And if you get too close to them, the security is going to mess you up, okay? Because they don't want people bum rushing them. But let's say for some fortuitous reason, you have been invited backstage at a concert with a famous musician or something like that, or an actress or whatever, and you actually get to talk to them and you get to know them, and then you are able to either create a relationship or even potentially curry favor with someone of that nature. And I think that that's sort of the energy of Cazimi, is that you're running into the sun's security system when you're under the beams. You're getting your ass kicked by the security at the concert, because you're not going to get up on stage with that person. But for some reason, you got a backstage pass when you connect with the sun in the Cazimi moment, and you have a really nice moment. Here's an example of this. I had a really nice moment with the artist who is named Walter de Becker. And if you are familiar with Walter de Becker, his stage name is Gautier. And he had this song, Somebody I Used to Know. You probably heard that. He's from Australia. Super nice guy. Came to Ypsilanti to do a concert. And we had tickets to the show. We went early because it was literally blocks from our house. And he was out on the lawn in front of it was at a university, and he was on the lawn in front of the venue playing frisbee with his friends. And I was like, wow, there he is. There's Gautier just playing frisbee. There was no security. It wasn't a thing. He was just hanging out. And so we just walked up to him and was like, hey, you mind if we play frisbee with you? And he's like, sure, because he's a cool guy. He's a Gemini. And so we played frisbee with Gautier for, I don't know, for half an hour. And then he was like, oh, we got to get going. The show's starting. Do you and your partner, me and Tanya, you want to come in the side door? Because I know that there's a line forming out front. And you might not get good seats because it's first come first serve for the seats. It's general admission. We're like, yeah. So he like let us in the back door. We were able to get in before the people in the line. Okay, this is the Cazimi. This is a Cazimi energy, and this is actually during Aries period. And we got to be like front row of his concert. And then he also was like, do you want to come hang out after the show? It was nice getting to know you and chatting with you. I was like, yes, we do. So we hung out with him backstage after the show, and mostly just because of happenstance of just being able to see him and have the I guess the boldness to ask him to hang out or to play frisbee with him. And it was a core memory. It's something I think about a lot, and how cool he was and how nice he was and how endearing and accommodating he was. So that to me is the feeling of a Cazimi moment. And if you have that in your chart, there may be some area of your life where you've got VIP passes backstage to some area and topic of your life. And it's sort of having a little bit of special privilege on some level. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Cassius. That's a good question. So Sag rising, did I sufficiently analyze your Jupiter Cazimi? Yes, I did. That was a rhetorical question. Well, it wasn't really, but it takes like 30 seconds of a delay for people to say yes in the chat box. Okay, let's keep going. Let's do Cap rising, another angular house and another angular Cazimi. All right, so this one is, now forgive this chart because now the Cazimi is starting to separate. That's just because I'm moving the chart around to just show you a random Capricorn rising chart. So don't get distracted by that. So here is Cap rising with Jupiter Cazimi in the 4th. It is providing resources for your 12th. It is an aversion to your 3rd, but attempting to provide resources for your 3rd. It is in an overcoming trine to your 8th house, and also in a whole sign trine to your 12th. So whole sign trine. And there's some challenges with your partnerships with Mars in the 7th house. For those of you who were here earlier and heard my stories of like assholery, like my partner is a Capricorn rising, so I am Mars in the 7th house right now. I'm the jerk that wouldn't slow down enough to take care of my ailing partner. So you might have somebody in your life, Cap risings, who really are, you're normally used to having a nurturing partner. You're normally used to having someone who you can count on for that support. And maybe through whatever circumstance, or maybe they have a goal that they're trying to achieve, they may have less patience or compassion in a moment where you really needed it. So that could be part of the challenge that you're experiencing. But the Jupiter Cazimi is helping you to make a new start in your home, with your family. Maybe there's a new project in your home that you're going to be beginning. This can also potentially lead to a new way to take a time out. I know that Cap risings, from my experience, sometimes have trouble slowing down and resting. And this Cazimi could be like, hey, you know what? For me to have a more healthy home life, I need a break. I need to find some peace and solitude. I need to do less. Okay. Maybe delegating is part of this Jupiter Cazimi. And that could really, really help you with your shared resources, your shared sense of purpose with your partner. I know that I've been begging my partner to take some time off so we can do some stuff with the house, but also trying to incorporate some rest in there, because my lovely Capricorn rising partner just takes on the weight of the world all the time, and sometimes it's hard for her to take a rest even when she really needs it. And all of you Cap risings out there, you do so much for everybody all the time, and you carry so many burdens. it might be just time to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, or your body potentially could manifest some kind of injury, or you could manifest some kind of injury just sometimes from the stress. I think our bodies tend to react to stress oftentimes. And I think that you'll be able to achieve more if you have a healthier balance with your home and work life. And this Jupiter Cazimi could provide what you need to take a rest and to just recharge the batteries, right? Just an oasis so that you can be the ass kicker that you were born to be, right? No one's gonna perish if you take a break. And I know that some people feel that, well, if they don't get involved, they are, the whole world's going to fall apart. But that's not necessarily always the case. It's not always true. And the other thing that Capricorn folks do is they have, this is Capricorn placements in general. And of course, take this with a grain of salt, because you may have some other mitigating factors in your chart. But there's sometimes a tendency for Capricorn type folks to want to conform to the expectations of their predominant culture or society. And they've been taught from a young age, whether it's Cap Moon, Cap Rising, Cap Sun, that if they behave in a certain way, they will be able to create material security. And that is a heavy burden to carry, because sometimes society doesn't reward you for playing nice and doesn't reward you for being the good boy or girl, right? And that's painful. And life in society isn't always fair. So that's a long-winded way of saying, relax a little bit and be able to take some time out so that you don't burn yourself out completely, because the work will still be there. Okay, let's keep going. Michelle, who is a Cap Rising, says, so true, Spencer. My Cap Rising in Virgo Sun. I have Cap Rising in Virgo Sun. My health is easily affected by working too much. Yeah, so Michelle, take a break, friend. It's okay. World's still going to be there. You Cap Risings, this is interesting. You Cap Risings have Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces is, the first decan is the Eight of Cups, where someone is leaving behind material success in search of a higher purpose and meaning. I'm sure many of you would benefit from just taking a break and trying to find what your raison d'etre is, and paying attention to your daily habits, maybe starting a new learning period. Okay, reskilling, because what you're doing right now isn't bringing you joy or peace or satisfaction, or maybe it's only partial, right? And that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're any less than. Having beginner's mind, even when you are totally a competent, responsible person, is a form of humility. I think that when we allow ourselves to begin again, even after we've achieved a great deal, that is us being open to being guided by the universe and by the divine. When we close ourselves off to learning new things and changing, that's when we fall into the trap of hubris that can lead us down the path of ill health, the path of severed relationships, the path of burnout. So again, it is a form of grace and humility to be able to learn to begin again and to really to rest. Okay, let's keep going. We're doing it. We're coming around the bend here. Aquarius rising. So Aquarius rising, you too are ruled by Saturn, and probably asking yourself those similar questions of what does it all mean, but maybe especially with your second house and how you support yourself. You may have some challenges with your resources right now. And this Cazimi is happening in your third house. So this is something where you are having an overcoming trine to your seventh. You're providing resources for your 11th. And you may be having a little bit of a difficult time with your sixth house. So let's draw all the things here. Oh, and the Cazimi is probably it's attempting to make a new start for your second house, but it is not witnessing. So it's not really providing as much help for the second house as you would hope. So this for Aquarius rising, it is important to make a new start in your daily habits, your daily routines, your daily rituals. Maybe start a new learning process. Sign up for guided group study 2023, spring 2023. Okay, there's a link in the pin to the chat. Sorry. The new routine that you are trying to establish and get people on board with could be very, very beneficial for your partnerships and for your relationships. It could also be very harmonious for your 11th house of group endeavors, of getting together with people that share a sense of purpose. I know Aquarius risings or Aquarius people in general tend to find good fortune in groups, groups that resonate with their belief systems, not just any group. But this could be a time to really start a new learning process. You know, you may be feeling a little burnt out with your health. There may be some health challenges. There could be something where you're working a lot and not getting credit for the work that you do. Or there's people that work for you, like people that you've contracted to do some work for you that you may be having some real difficulty with. And that could lead to some changes. Could also be a new start with siblings too, or extended family members or neighbors, anybody that lives in your immediate environment. Maybe trying to get them on board with your whatever your project is or your enthusiasm as well. We got all the Cap risings chiming in. Like Nancy says, my Cap rising, Cap sun, number one son has said these very things. He even looks weighed down, really heartbreaking. Yeah, well, encourage him to rest, encourage him to delegate. You know, those are the things that can help strike balance in their lives. And the other thing you can do for your Cap rising is, you know, gas them up a little bit about how responsible that they are, because most of them are, and they don't realize it though. They're always, I've found that Saturnian types really beat themselves to hell on the inside, and sometimes they need some encouragement, you know, and they need to be acknowledged for all the things that we take for granted that they do. Does that make sense? Because Saturn is, you know, can be this consistent rock in our lives, and oftentimes they don't get the credit that they deserve for being the structure that keeps everything together. Nesliha. No, oh my goodness, I'm blind. Neslahan. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. It says this Cap rising is tired of pleasing people for sure. It is not their fault though. It is our nature, or our natal Saturn, or it's my natal Saturn in Cancer. Oh yeah. Well, that's good observation about seeing where Saturn is and what the helm of your ship is steering you and what direction it's steering you in. With Saturn in Cancer ruling the first house of Capricorn, you know, taking responsibility for the people, for nurturing the people in your life is important. And part of it is probably due to the fact that you were possibly denied that nurturing when you were younger, and now you feel a responsibility to others to do that, and that's okay. But you have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of others as well, and that's important for people to remember. Okay. Yes, Nanda Devi says, use Saturn's best trait, schedule in some rest time. There you go. Put it on the schedule. I love it. Carol Mortal Mile says, yes, been working silly hours trying to get my channel monetized. Only 200 subs so far, exhausted. This is Cazimi is conjunct my Jupiter in the third, opposite Mars and Libra. Well, just keep at it, Carol. You know, I think that you build over time. It took me 3 years to be able to get to the point where YouTube allowed me to monetize my channel. And speaking of that, thank you so much, Carla, for your super sticker. She says, appreciate you sharing your time and wisdom on behalf of the Capricorn Risings. Thank you, Carla. So, Carol, keep going, keep making content, try to be as consistent as you can with it, whatever that means to you, right? I think that consistency doesn't have to be you make a video every day. It just means that having an agreement with your audience about how you're going to show up. And it's okay to renegotiate that every once in a while. I've made the agreement with myself and with my audience that I show up roughly once a week to do these things. It used to be that I would make a video every day or every other day, and I couldn't keep up that pace, and I had to readjust that to work for my life. So you have to figure out what works for you and then keep showing up, and then make adjustments to find out what works the best. That being said, people have suggested ways that I could get 20,000 followers if I just shorten my videos, and honestly, that's just not me. So I just keep doing what I'm doing, and the people that like it, and the people that don't, they moved on to something else. So what I would encourage you to do is just be you, show up consistently in the way that makes sense to you, and then they will find you, right? Whoever they is, right? If you build it, they will come. And that's the field of dreams, right? That's what I was trying to remember. Build whatever is important to you, have passion around it, and people will resonate with that. Okay. Yeah, Michelle. I love all the Cap risings in the chat too. I think that as a Cancer sun and Mercury, maybe I resonate with them. I know my partner needs my Cancerian perspective, and I need her Capricorn perspective. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship, I think, when you have some 7th house placements in someone's chart. I believe that. Lisa says, I love the long videos you do. Well, Lisa, it is a labor of love. And I do love talking with all of you. Some of these are so long because we're just having such a good conversation. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, these would be much shorter if I was just talking at you for an hour or even for 10 minutes or whatever. But I like the interaction. And to me, that's what makes this special. So thank you for being here today. And thank you for the contributions, for the super stickers and the super chats. It is time that I am investing, and it does make it easier to pay my bills when and to show up for these when you are making contributions. So I'm so appreciative of that form of support. But again, the easiest thing you can do to support the channel, like it, subscribe, share with your friends, comment, all of those things are helpful as well. Okay, Cap rising, did we or Aquarius rising? I think we went over Aquarius rising good. I think that the challenge with Aquarius rising is you just had Pluto move into your 1st house, and now Venus will be trining it at this Jupiter Cazimi, which is a nice thing. This is something where exploring your romantic options or exploring things that bring you pleasure can help alleviate some of the challenges that you might be now experiencing with Pluto in your 1st house. Just realize that you're going through some long-term changes, and that you're a beautiful butterfly, and you don't have to make all those changes overnight. I know that you're feeling pressure now with Pluto in your 1st house, but we need your energy, Aquarius risings. We need your ability to help reshape our communities in ways that are more fair and equitable for everyone on the planet. And we need your ability to be able to see the bigger picture if we're going to survive as a species. So just keep being you and putting yourself out there. Try not to hide, because you do need to be visible sometimes to be able to shift the energy that you want to shift. I know that Aquarius is not always comfortable in the spotlight, but if it's for a purpose, that can help you to work through some of those feelings. Okay, let's keep going. We're almost there, friends. Pisces rising, the last one. We've made it to the last one. Did I start with Aries? I think I started with Aries. And we're heading towards the 3-hour mark here, so let's finish this up. So, Pisces rising. So we are looking at a Cazimi in your 2nd house. Oh, that's nice, huh? It is going to be providing resources for your 10th house of your career. It's providing an overcoming trine to your 6th house. It is working through some challenges in your 5th. So we've got a trine and a trine, and we are in aversion to the 1st. So this is interesting because Jupiter is also your ascendant ruler, Pisces rising. So you may be finding a whole new sense of purpose and sense of self, but through your ability to support yourself, okay? Through your ability to cultivate your own skill set, your own means of either financial support, and you might be trying to get people on board with your vision with that. Your ability to take, I don't know if control is the right word, but to take the reins and get people on board with your vision could be very beneficial for your public life. It could also be very helpful to getting people on board that either you work with as coworkers or people that work for you or people that are doing a service for you. That could be something that could be really helpful with this Jupiter Cazimi. Maybe you find out that some contracted work that you have done or you are doing is very beneficial, or that, you know, the quote that you got from a contractor is, you know, reasonable, something like that. You may be having some challenges with your creativity right now or with your children. Children could be unruly. It may be exhausting. You could be feeling separated from your creativity because of all the weight of the responsibility that Saturn's bringing you in your 1st house. This is another part of this challenge is all you Pisces risings out there, the dream has, you're at a crossroads. The dream has to become real. Parts of it have to become real. Parts of the dream have to die, and that's painful. And but that's normal. Not every dream or imagining or vision is going to be able to manifest physically, and that's just reality. Some of them can be, though, and it's a beautiful thing when they do. But this is concretizing your need to find a higher purpose, to find out what's motivating you. And in this case, honestly, probably money is motivating you at this point, resources. And there's no shame in that. Like, sometimes we need to be able to support ourselves. Like, oftentimes when we're cut off from support from others, like Mars in Cancer is doing, we have to rely on our own resources. And that can feel very empowering to be able to make a new start where we don't have to rely on everyone else, where we don't have to be adjusting to everyone else's energy, where we don't have to be constantly bending over backwards for other people's, you know, I don't know, needs, wants, and desires. And Saturn's asking you to have a little bit more emotional boundaries so that you take care of yourself. And this is a great time to take care of yourself, Pisces rising. And it could lead to some success publicly. Okay. Well, I think we made it through the signs. All right. How y'all doing out there? Pretty good? So I'm going to finish this up today. So many amazing comments. So much great participation. This, again, is one of the reasons why I love doing this, is being able to get to chat with all of you. I do have a animal and an I Ching reading for you, and I'll do the I Ching first. The I Ching reading that I got for you was number 57, which roughly translates to gentle influence, compliance, humility, persistence. It is a double wind hexagram. In the I Ching, each half of the hexagram, each 3 lines associates with an element, like wind, earth, mountain, water, fire, thunder. I think those are, I might be missing one, but this is a double wind. So this is kind of like, at this Cazimi, we're going to need to be gentle, right? We're going to have to be consistent. We're going to have to show up like the wind, not like a hammer, okay? The wind just blows over a surface. It makes its presence known. It moves the leaves, and then it moves on, and then it moves again. So again, wind is also temporal. So this Jupiter Cazimi could be something temporal that we're working with, that, you know, we have an opportunity to do something important but it's a momentary respite, right? There's two changing lines with this hexagram. The first is line number 2. It says, penetration under the bed, using priests and shamans in great numbers, great good fortune, no blame. So penetration under the bed is referring to some kind of hidden influence. It's important in this Jupiter Cazimi to bring some of the challenges to light. There may be some things that are exposed that we get clarity on. Any Cazimi brings us clarity. The sun is a big ball of light, and it's bringing clarity to the areas of life that it is connected with the Jupiter areas, in particular in the Aries area of our life. So this could be bringing to light maybe even some bad influences with Mars in Cancer. And we need to examine our motivations and our hidden agendas. It's important to be brutally honest with yourself during this period of time, because it is in Aries. So we're really trying to understand ourselves better so that when we try to get others on board, we ourselves are not conflicted. It's much easier to sell an idea when you believe in it rather than when you actually don't believe in it. No one's going to follow along with your ideas if you don't even believe it, right? So sincerity and authenticity is important. So shining a light on something will help you move forward. Use your humor and your charisma. You don't have to bludgeon people over the head with it. Be like a gentle wind. Crack some jokes. Try to figure out how to be graceful with this. How can you make like if you have a project, you have an idea, how can you make it more appealing to people? How can you jazz it up a little bit, right? Instead of saying, you need to do this right now, how do you encourage people like in a Venusian way to come? Maybe your project is great, maybe your idea is great, but maybe its adornments need to be spruced up a little bit, okay? Release deep-rooted anger and resentment. It is time to move on. It says understanding your own beliefs, especially around family conflicts. This is something I was incorporating in with Mars. I'm reading my notes. So Jupiter is related to beliefs and philosophies, and Mars is providing conflict and challenge and a need to separate from the Cancerian area of our chart, which can be related to our domestic situation, especially one-on-one partnerships, mutually beneficial relationships. So when you get clear on your belief system, that can help you unravel some of the knots that you have in your relationships. The second line that we have is line number 6. And we've got a Pisces rising chiming in quite bright. Says, Pisces rising here, trying to take on responsibility in my life and needing help with my health to be able to function each day. The specialists have been unhelpful so far. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, hang in there and keep at it. Part of Saturn is saying, show up tomorrow, show up the day after, show up next week, show up next month, rather than letting the stream just take you wherever. Sometimes you have to plan, right? Remember all those Cap risings that were like, we got to schedule it in. That's Saturn talking, okay? So stick with it. Endurance is part of Saturn's quality. Consistency is also a part of it. And you can do it. I have faith in you. Have faith in yourself. Line number 6 says, penetration under the bed. He loses his property and his axe. Perseverance brings misfortune. Now that's kind of cryptic and it sounds a little bit negative, but here's the thing. I'm interpreting this line as the Venus-Pluto trine. Because a lot of the notes talked about an obsession, Pluto, with looking at something from all angles, Venus and Gemini. And it spoke about those being distractions, okay? Like it said, it's basically was like, it's go time. Don't get distracted by all the other options about the grass being greener on every other side. It's time to move on and move forward. The inner conflicts that you're having are the ones that are going to create the distractions. It's important not to over prepare. We've talked at length about over preparation, overthinking. Overthinking brings stagnation. Overthinking puts us in this space. So Jupiter Cazimi says, no, go. You're going to create a good circumstance, a good outcome by just making the start, pressing the go button. Don't expect that one action to be the only action, but it's a great start. And celebrate your achievement of starting. Okay. Acknowledge that you're able to start. So by being intentional, you're not going to waste your energy on these other paths that aren't your most important priority. So pick your priority, see how you can make a new start, and then get other people on board. This is changing to number 39, which translates to obstruction, impediment, difficulties, obstacles, hindrance, gathering strength to spill around obstacles. So this is when we meet with an obstacle. Let's say we're let's think about it from a fire perspective, because I was thinking about water, and this is a Mars and Cancer issue. When water meets an obstacle, it gathers strength and then spills around it. Like, think of a rock in the middle of a stream, it'll spill around it. When fire meets an obstacle, though, it's interesting. Fire consumes something. Like, if, let's say, fire is meeting with a, wood, like, and it wants to get past something, it brings something on board. It makes it a part of themselves. Maybe to overcome the obstacles that we need to during this Jupiter Cazimi, we need to get people on board, like we've been saying. We need to make them a part of our vision. We need to include them in our vision rather than just making them feel like they are opponents to it. All right? When you can bring people on board and bring them into your vision through your enthusiasm, through your charisma and grace, then people are probably more willing to support that vision. So bring people on board, and fire just is, it needs fuel, it needs air, it needs space, it needs ideas, but you got to do something with those ideas. You got to take action with those ideas. You can't just leave it in the airspace, right? It's got to be movement. There's movement that needs to happen. So I think that's the way to get from the 57 to 39 and work through it gracefully. The animal I got was interesting. The animal was the chipmunk, or the ground squirrel. And if you have spent any time in your backyard, you probably know that chipmunks, they move really quickly. They are very bold. They will come, and if you put out some seeds or some nuts, they'll come and take it and go away. And they'll even maybe come up to you and, like, they're very, they have a lot of funny elements about them. They are very charismatic little creatures. I'm thinking about Chippendale, like Rescue Rangers, like they like to laugh, like Alvin and the Chipmunks or something like that. But the chipmunk can represent having confidence. Like, those little animals have confidence that they can speed around you, that they're going to come and grab that peanut out of your hand, and they know they're going to be able to get away in time. So having certainty, making quick decisions, practicing agility, storing up energy for the winter. Chipmunks understand how to store away food and put it into their cache or into their nest for the winter to sustain them. They put it in their cheeks. So the cheeks are an interesting element of the chipmunk, like how we speak, how we communicate. But I will say this summer has some difficult Taurus elements and some difficult fixed sign elements. So I think it's really important to make a start now while you still have the opportunity, before everything starts to slow down and grind to a halt. Like, get people on board before the conditions become stagnant, okay? And by not starting, you may find yourself in a precarious position. So I think that the chipmunk speaks to that. So start preparing. Find your niche. And this says chipmunks have a very specific niche in nature. For you to be able to get people on board, maybe you have to do something that is, something that either only you can do or only you can do in the way that you can do it. And that's okay. That's a way to, you don't have to be 100% original. I think that that's a fallacy. Like, I think we're always inspired by other people, by history. We're always in a lineage of some sort, but no one has ever heard the way that you say it from your individual point of consciousness. That's why I feel comfortable drawing upon all of these different sources, because it's going to be filtered through me and through my stories. And I may express it in a slightly different way that might help it land for somebody. And you may be able to express a similar idea. Like, if you're an astrologer, a lot of us are talking about the same things, but one astrologer may resonate with you due to their delivery, due to their persona, due to the way that they talk, due to the stories that they tell that may land for you in that certain day. And that's okay. It's important to kind of like be open to that. And you have the ability to do that yourself in your field of interest as well. All right, friends, that is what I have for today. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate all of you. I appreciate all the comments, all the super chats and the super stickers. Again, do me a favor, like this video, share it with your friends. Take care during the Jupiter Cazimi on the 11th. You know, be kind to one another again, even when you are trying to work on a project that is important to you personally. You can grease the wheels for cooperation by just treating people with respect and kindness, grace and patience. You know, you're going to have to cultivate those qualities if you want your project to be the best it can be, because oftentimes we aren't islands. We aren't able to do everything that we need to do by ourselves, and we need that communal support. Okay. Well, friends, that's what I've got. I will see you the next time, probably next week around a similar time. So everyone have a great Jupiter Cazimi. Be kind to yourself, be kind to one another, and I'll see you the next time. Take care, friends.